give people a couple minutes before we go live on the podcast.
Sounds good. And then I'll ads. Thank you, ads, for existing with your
Yes,
advertisements.
ads are the best. Don't we love ads? Don't we love our attention being vied for every moment of the day, even when you're pumping gas? There's ads at the gas station. That one pisses me off the most out of anything. Like YouTube ads, whatever. Like I get it, but gas station ads, come on, man.
Yeah, gas station ads I got not only no tolerance for, I will stand outside a little speaker. I'm never going to like damage or vandalize anything, but I will leave 1-star reviews on gas stations that do it.
If you're lucky, you can find the volume buttons. I've found them on a couple and been able to turn it all the way down. And then you don't have to really
you know what? I didn't even know that was an option. I'm going to try.
It depends on I think, I forget which one. Some of them, the buttons are on the outside. I don't know if all of them work that way. But anyway. Okay.
Twitch enjoyer. No, not Twitch. Twitch enjoyer. There we go. The factory must grow. Encore.
I like that word.
2.1.
It is an encore. That's such a perfect word.
Indeed.
Look at that. Because it's like the show ended, you know, but it's like, one more. Yeah. One more song.
Indeed.
And who knows? There will maybe still be more, but for now.
Indeed.
Let's see.
When bandwidth and life situation.
Yes, exactly. There also might be more just if I decide to play 2.1 at some point and give it a good run. Because even with regular Space Age, I never really like I played through it. I beat it, 100 hours or whatever. But I didn't get legendary everything. I didn't, make a train base. I didn't mega base at all. And then again, I don't know if I ever will because mega basing just isn't my jam. But there's a world where I do.
I mean, there is, and I think that with your Zen Garden sort of mindset, this is probably fairly valid. So, I mean, excuse me, sorry. Yeah, I think it's a thing.
Yeah,
I'm still harboring intentions of working on hidden worlds, although to be fair, it's been a little bit difficult to wrangle everybody to still have meetings. But this is because of time zones. Some people are, in various parts of the world that don't line up with the one I'm in.
Yeah, time zone situations can be really rough.
Yeah.
What's up, Code Green? Well, you are on it in a way. You can drop your most spicy comments. And who knows? Like Galdoc and I were just saying, maybe we can do another podcast at some point and get some guests on.
But I think actually, yeah. Okay.
What were you gonna say?
I was going to say, so I basically have made a list, Code Green, of everything that I thought was relevant to my own personal aspirations in terms of modding, mainly from the modding section of the patch notes and not the scripting section, only because I felt like I didn't fully understand the scripting section. I understood most of it, but it was that kind of I know enough to be dangerous, so I'll just abjure.
I know enough to be dangerous. That's title of my autobiography. I feel like it really is. I have this thing, and I'm sure this is common in kind of the circles we run in, being a little bit more sciencey, engineering, kind of bookwormy kind of people. I feel like I know the answers to a lot of things, but I often am making extremely educated guesses that are often correct, but I don't know I'm correct. And that's gotten me in trouble sometimes because it's I don't actually know what I'm talking about, even though I can kind of spitball and be pretty accurate on a lot of things in a situation I'm not that educated on. It's gotten me in trouble in some cases where either my intuition was very wrong or my assumptions were very wrong, or I just was in a situation that was a lot harder to grasp than average situations. It was kind of just this.
Sure. Yeah, and I think Dunning-Kruger had something to say about this particular thing that also applies to my own life. But I also, it's you're sort of teasing out the distinction, not to wax too philosophical, between knowledge and belief and blah blah blah, and it's like, oh my god, stop trying to like upgrade a human understanding to a declarative fact about the universe that is inviolate. It's like we're all doing our best, man. Even people who know things, it's like just
That is
yes, you
true.
can.
But
There's like
there is a difference between being confident for lots of
oh yeah,
good reasons and kind of just thinking you know more than you do, and that's
the
the
bin I
one I've
use,
gotten in trouble with sometimes.
yeah, the bin I throw all of that under is being reasonable. If you are
Yeah.
being like, it's kind of a wastebasket sort of everything can fit in here, but
Well,
it's
and
like
it's a little bit of an
eh,
efficiency game because it's like if I'm constantly doubting myself, I'm going to end up being less congruent because I'll be worried like, well, I don't know this for sure, so I won't say it. Well, I don't know this for sure. And it's like, well,
sure.
I'd rather miss 10% of the time and take a lot of shots than like just never take any of those shots. But
Yeah,
you got to be careful with the humility on average so that when you do miss that 10%, it doesn't, rub people the wrong way and stuff. But anyway,
well,
that's
yeah,
a separate topic.
just one last comment on that. It's the thing that people do when they're being intellectually honest, when they sort of, say, okay, well, this is where I'm coming from, blah blah blah. So take this with a grain of salt of particular size.
Right.
Then here's my take. But like other people will sometimes latch onto that and be like, oh, I'm sorry, intellectual honesty, time to jump all over that. It's like, okay, let's all
I
settle
mean, and
down.
that's great. It's prefacing everything with those types of things that,
Yeah.
I think is important to do. But good
Yeah.
morning, Mars.
Good
All
morning.
right, so we're 6
Probably
minutes into the stream. I think we're about ready to go live here.
Ooh, the debugger is being native in the game as opposed to an instrument mod. Ooh, okay. Very well. And GUI substyles for the secret flow in a frame, stuff like that. The secret flow.
The secret
Very
flow. That
like,
sounds like a quest.
does the
Magical
sparrow
quest.
not fly? Does the river not have a secret flow? Meditate
Oh my
on
goodness.
these and you will understand Kung Fu.
Exactly. Oh man. Okay, you ready?
Am I ever?
All right, let's do this. Oh goodness. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Factory Must Grow, episode 53, a special encore episode. As usual, we've got Galdoc with us today. Galdoc, how you doing?
Hello, good. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's been a little while since we've gotten to hang out on the podcast, but
Indeed.
we're glad to be back for a special episode for 2.1. Factorio 2.1 has released, and the patch, well, experimental has released, I should say, and the patch notes are out, and there's a lot of them, and we wanted to talk through pretty much all of them. There might be a couple that we skip that are pretty insignificant, but for the most part, we're going to hit on the whole patch notes, and then Galdoc has some extra input that I wouldn't have on the modding implications, because there's also a lot of modding patch notes that are all great. I love modding improvements, but I don't really know much about it, and Galdoc will be able to offer a lot of insight into that. So yeah, we're gonna dive into the patch notes today. Galdoc, do you have any introductory items?
Well, I was just going to say, we promised when 2.0 was released that we would come back and do a podcast, and promise
2.1.
made, promise kept. Here we are. This is something that I've personally kind of been excited for, just to sort of see what's going to be in here. I didn't get everything that I wanted, but you know what? I got enough of what I wanted that I am happy. There's a couple of things in here that you'll, if you're listening to the podcast, you're not going to see me like flip out on camera, but if you're watching, you'll get to see a little bit of Galdoc flipping out on camera. Very worthwhile, I promise.
A little bit of rattling on the mic. That might be mine. Let me know if I fixed
it is yours. I don't think mine is rattling.
I think it was the wiggling of my little filter, and it was hitting the mic. I think I fixed it.
Gotcha. Good catch.
Okay, so anyway, yeah, so as far as 2.1 stuff, there's a lot here. I think I got a lot of what I wanted. There's a couple small things, and we'll get to them, that I maybe didn't get as well. There's also a sense of like, I didn't get a ton that I wasn't thinking about. I didn't get surprised by like, oh, I didn't even know I wanted that, and now I have that, and that's great. And to be fair, that's not what 2.1 was ever intended to be. But of course, as a player, you always hope for stuff like that, where it's like this big surprise bomb, and it's like it's totally fine that there wasn't, maybe many of those, and maybe for some people there were, but Anyway, let's dive in
Yeah.
because there's a lot of patch notes here and we only have so long to get through them. So, um, I'm going to kind of read through a few and then I'll maybe let you read through a few if you want. So that way it's not just me
Sure.
talking the whole time. And I'm going to say for a few of them, we can kind of just move on if there's not too much interesting to say, but interrupt me and I can interrupt you if there's something we want to hit on
Sure.
that's not just immediately obvious. So the
Mhm.
first section is features, and I'm just reading off of their Factorio forum post here, and I've got it up on the video. If you want a video version of this, you can go to Krydax Extra, and you can you can read along the patch notes as we go through them, which could be helpful. So number one, added pump check and burner miner drill flipping. Actually,
Finally.
kind of a big deal.
Kind of finally. Like, this is the one thing, like, he's an engineer, he can't, like, put the port on the other side. It just
Yeah,
irony.
yeah, you can't mirror a building, and it made less sense when they added mirroring to all fluid buildings in
Exactly.
the first place. It made even less sense that these couldn't be flipped. I will say the pump jack one is a little bit less important since the
Yeah.
way fluids work, it kind of doesn't matter that much as long as the pipe can connect somewhere. It kind of like you can do spaghetti better now in certain ways, but like overall, it doesn't matter much.
Yeah, I
Whereas
mean,
the oh, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, like, the burner one, I always accepted that wherever there was a oil patch, it was just gonna look organic. There's just no way to get, like, order here. It was always going to be a bit off. But
Right.
there's that moment when you're putting it together and you're like, "Man, if this little tiny thing was on the other side, then I could just not have these 10 pipes here." And,
Yeah, exactly.
it's a
It cleans
peel,
up
but
cleans up the
still.
spaghetti. The hard part is that patches are still randomly
Yeah,
assigned, and so it's like it's still hard to make it look perfect, but there's a lot of cases
exactly.
where like flipping it would make you go from like 4 pipes to 1 pipe, and that's great.
Yeah.
But the burner drill flipping actually is a big deal because it allows for undergrounds to fit between two outputs of a burner drill. And so there's a
Mhm.
lot of new things that are possible with burner drills being able to mirror themselves. And particularly even in Pyanodons, like you're dealing with ash in the early game, and burner drills make ash. And so you have to deal with feeding them coal, extracting ash, and the burner drill output itself. So you've got
Yeah.
three things that you're dealing with. And now that you can flip it, you're able to have an underground in between the burner drills that could be carrying something like ash, whereas before you wouldn't have been able to do that. So there's a couple things like that that are really nice.
It's a pain, but it's a little bit less of a pain in the ash.
Yeah, yeah. So
I'm
it's
so
like
sorry.
not the biggest deal, but it's a nice quality of life, and it allows for some new, just some new
Yeah.
like
Building
build
design.
varieties. Yeah,
I wanna have the opportunity to design more things, and this is
yeah,
exactly what this does, in
exactly.
my opinion. Sorry.
Next feature is inserters can be flipped to make blueprint flipping reliable. I don't totally understand what that means.
So, the way it works is that if you have a if you have a, okay, I'm gonna have to, because there's people who aren't, seeing this, it's a podcast, I'll describe it. Essentially, if you have an inserter outputting onto a belt that's going radially away from it, you can put it on either the left or right lane by flipping the thing, because normally it would put it in the center and then it would default to either the left or right lane, but now it actually has a side that it will put on. This does not mean it will reach across and make it near or far. So if the belt is going across
No, sorry.
the
This is a different patch note, I think. You're talking about something else. We haven't gotten to that one yet. This is
okay,
about
well,
blueprint flipping.
sure, this does a yes.
Because what you're talking about is a whole nother. Maybe that's what this feature is talking about.
I'll That's fine.
Maybe
You know
I'm
what?
wrong.
Well, you go ahead, and I'll give you a link in a moment here, and then
No, you
maybe
might
that
be
will.
right. So, okay, let's talk about that feature in general. So, as players know, when inserters place onto a belt, they're always placing it on the far side if the belt's going like crossways compared to the inserter. If the belt is perpendicular to the inserter, one could say. If the belt
Orthogonal.
is parallel and in line with the inserter, so usually that's done with undergrounds, but you can just place onto a single belt that's going away from you. That's like the
Yes.
origin of the belt is right in front of the inserter. Um, that would always place on the right side of the belt. Now the game is defaulted to allow you to pick left or right. And I believe this patch note is also maybe also saying that when you flip a blueprint, it will flip it such that it will be on the proper side after you
Yes.
flip it.
That's right.
But it always would have been on the right side anyway. But I guess it's just making it so that no matter what you've set up with lanes, if you flip the blueprint, it will all work the same way.
Yeah,
Things could end up on opposite lanes though, but you'll still have, right? Or will they always be on the same lane?
basically what it's the tagline is, now there is a side to side orientation potentially that the inserter may have, and it's just saying it'll respect that when you flip it around. That's basically it.
Yeah, I
So
feel like this one would be easier to show than tell, but here's what I'm
yeah,
imagining. I'm imagining like you've got a building and the inserter is placing onto an inline belt onto the right side of that belt, according to the belt's perspective. So like of the two lanes. Let's say coal is going onto the right lane. And then later you have that belt kind of smushing into another belt where they both go sideways onto a vertical belt, maybe.
Mhm.
And from the left side was coming, let's say we got coal and iron. And so then when you flip that, now on the other flipped version, the coal will be on the left lane, but now that left lane is coming onto the left side of the new belt, and now the iron's coming on the right side. So it will actually mirror everything, I think, properly now. Whereas before, that wouldn't have worked because the inserter always would have put onto the right side of the belt. And so if you would flip the blueprint, now the coal would be coming from the right instead of the left, and that could break something depending on how you merge those belts.
Yeah, and if you want to show it on screen, you can. I know we got a lot to get through, so maybe not. But like the link I posted in the Discord, if you scroll down a bit, it describes more or less exactly what you just showed, and it shows it's an animation of the blueprint being pasted and copied and flipped.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense because I remember that being talked about in the FFF, but I was confused on what this was talking about because when it said flipped, it's like, oh, it means the horizontal.
Yeah, it's a really weirdly way to phrase what's happening with this, but
it is still interesting to me that they didn't do near versus far. I think they've talked about it before, maybe in a long time ago, before 1.0 even came out, as far as why they didn't do that. It still feels like a feature that like a lot of players want, even non-advanced players. And I think it's one of those like I know their perspective has been the player needs puzzles, and that's why, they don't have adjustable inserters. That's why they didn't do near and far. Originally, that's why they had limitations on filter. There's a lot of those types of things. Same thing with pipes. Some of it is a simplification argument, like not to overwhelm the player. Some of it is if we give the player too many tools, it will make the puzzles too easy. That was originally one of the arguments for not measuring temperature on nuclear, for example.
Sure.
But, it's interesting because they've done away with some of those things over time. And it's like, where's the line? And it's hard because you've got a lot of different players playing. And the line is different depending on which player, like which section of the player base you're looking at.
And this will be a comment for almost all the ones we're going to talk about here. The fact is, when you're making a set of tools for someone to build stuff with, and you're trying to also have these things be somewhat puzzly and give them interesting design questions, you essentially get there by not letting them do literally everything they want. And one of the things that you can do is to either couple things together. That is to say, if you have something that has a particular effect and it then has another side consequence to it that are somehow interlinked, and you cannot put the thing down without having the side consequence. It's a little general, but like that is one way of doing it. And another way is to literally just say, here's a limitation. You just cannot do this thing. And then all of a sudden, we have all these puzzles we have to work with.
Right.
And it's never best phrased as it makes something too simple or too complicated. Rather, you're pushing in the direction of simplicity or in the direction of complication. And what you would say is, by context, it's like it makes it oversimplifies or it overcomplicates is usually how I like to think about it. Just because it's less of you've gone past a threshold, because that threshold has changed. And we can see a whole bunch of those changes here. A lot of these are a result of that threshold changing.
It's also, I think, a big part of...
I would speculate that it's a lot of those devs who would play the game and be like, oh, I wish we could do this. And then all of a sudden, oh, look, it's suddenly acceptable. Anyway.
It's a feature. Yeah. I think part of it, too, is also Space Age raised the bar for complexity way high. And I think that's allowed a lot of the puzzling to be moved into some of those new mechanics, those new planets. And now they're a bit more okay with removing some of those forced puzzles from the original game because there's a lot more game to game. And now you
Yeah.
don't need as many of those random forced puzzles like nuclear temperature because there's a billion other things you have to solve anyway. And
Yeah.
solving that with some weird, funky accumulator version of a hot steam pipe like that, like we don't need that to
Yeah.
be forced on the player because they've got a lot of other things they have to do now too. So I think that's
Right.
part of it as well.
Mhm.
Anyway, we gotta keep
Let's
going
keep going.
here.
Yeah. Yeah. We're
So
gonna.
this next one's a big deal, though, so we might talk about it for a minute. Circuit connectable entities with control GUI on the side now have settings grouped into input and output sections.
Yes.
So, and I'm going to read the next one as well. I'm going to read all three of these actually. Added option to select which wires, red, green, or both, should be used by a circuit connectable entity for input and separately for output. And requester and buffer chests can now set requests and read contents at the same time. But because of the previous two notes I read, you will be able to select red versus green versus both on both set and read. And that is true for inserters. That'll be true for assemblers. What are your what you start? I got a lot to say about this, but
Well, I was going
what
to
are
say
your
that
thoughts?
first off, I love it. And second off, there is one more piece that I would like that I've mentioned to Code Green, who already knows where I'm going to go. Sorry, Code Green, you're going to hear it twice. But I mean, this is fabulous because frankly, there has been a whole lot of pain when you have one entity that you must deal with. For example, a crafting machine. And it must have, in a sense, more granular control over the circuit network to do the thing you're trying to do. I'm thinking in particular of on Folgora when I would try to have the things that could spoil into enemies that would come murder me. I would like to basically recipe swap them, and when so that I could basically like eject all the stuff out of the assembler after a particular time to guarantee that I can get rid of things that would spoil. And
Right.
it was so complicated to try to work this out that it killed my playthrough. It like literally that was the point where I stopped. I was enjoying the clever solution I was coming up with. I felt good, but over like it was like 5 or 6 iterations of trying to do this, failing, and me being like, "That's enough Factorio for me." And I honestly, I haven't picked up the game since.
And being able to
Um,
disambiguate red green input output would have fixed this for you.
it would have gone a long way to fixing it for me.
Yeah.
Because it was like there was nutrients, but then it was counting and sort of merging together the nutrients that were an
Yes.
ingredient and the nutrients that were the fuel, and it was
Right.
just like this isn't working for me.
Another,
Like I
yeah,
can't get it
a really
through.
common case that existed even before Space Age. Obviously, dealing with assemblers is a big use case for this situation. Dealing with setting and reading requests on requesters is going to be a big use case. And another one is now, that also previously existed, was setting filters and reading hand contents on inserters.
Mhm.
Because previously you could do both, but they would talk to each other. So
Glom.
if you
Yeah.
did them on the same inserter, it was fine because the same inserter would ignore its own outputs when regarding what it was seeing as inputs. So you could set a filter and read contents on one inserter and it would work perfectly. It would just work as you hoped. But if you had 10 inserters all wired together, they would read their own contents, which would be sent to the whole network of 10 of them. And then those would be setting their filters to the thing the other one was holding, which might not be what you want at all. You might be like, no, I want to set the filters based on what this combinator's outputting, but I want to
Mhm.
read the contents and send it to this other combinator. And you just couldn't do it. It
Right.
was literally
Right.
impossible. And now
Yeah.
it is, unless you wired up every inserter to its own combinator. That would have
Yeah.
worked, but that's a pain. So now you
And
can do that because you can just say on red wire, set the contents, and on green wire, read the contents or set the filter and read the contents. So that's great. And there's a million new things you can do with this. So it's really cool. It's 90% of what I wanted out of this. I'm curious if
yeah.
the thing you still want is the same thing I'm going to say.
The thing I wanted was the ability to output separately different batches of information on the red and green wire. I don't want to have inputs be separated. That's too much. I don't think there's any use
Yeah,
for it
but
really.
having the
Maybe there is.
outputs be able to be differentiated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I that one having like on the red wire have one output and the green wire the other. The reason is because and maybe there's a clever way of doing this that I just don't understand, but I don't know how to use combinators downstream in order to accomplish that because I would have to do something I would have to be getting information that would
You have to
only
do memory
be
cells and all sorts of other stuff. Yeah, it's a mess. The
It's
main
like
thing, at least for me, I don't know exactly what use case you're talking about, but for me, the main use case was reading ingredients and reading contents cannot be disambiguated. A lot of outputs, because I see what you're asking for, but in a lot of cases, it's not a huge deal because the different outputs are disambiguated. Such as like if you have a like assemblers have a working uh, combinator output. Like you can just read that it's working and it'll send out a certain signal. But you can set that icon to be whatever you want. And so you could send out some signal that's never going to interfere with reading the contents, for example. And so then, even though they're on the same color wire, at least the symbols are completely disambiguated every time. But the one situation where that's literally always going to crash into each other is reading the contents and reading the ingredients, because those are always going to be the same things. And you cannot, like, if it sees 7 iron plates, does that mean it has 2 iron plates in it and the ingredient is 5 iron plates, or is it 4 and 4 or 3 and 7? Like, you don't know.
right.
And you can't know unless you do some crazy combinator logic to do that. And automols in particular desire this ability, or it depends on how you're making the automol, but in a decent number of cases, you'd like to be able to disambiguate what's actually in the thing and what are the ingredients for what the thing wants. And still in 2.1, even with this new feature, unfortunately, we cannot do that.
I see.
Which is a bit unfortunate. The solution, which is really like ham-handed, I'm going to be honest, the best solution right now is to place down 2 assemblers, and one of them is a dummy assembler that just has the recipe set to it so
Oh,
you can
yeah.
read the ingredients. And that's really
And
gross,
subtract it off.
right? Like
Yeah,
that's
that's
not elegant, and that's the best solution. The next best solution is like a probably pretty advanced combinator setup. I don't know how many you require, but if I were going to make something, it would probably be like 5 combinators or something that you would need to set up some sort of memory cell situation where it sees what the ingredients are, and then it now has that locked in, and now it's subtracting that from the ingredient output plus content output, so now it can just see what the contents are. Like, you could make that work, but it's not easy. It's really rough. And having just a button where you could say, hey, the ingredients output on red and the contents output on green, like that would have been great. I'm a little bummed we don't have that, but overall this feature is wonderful and I'm very thankful for it.
yeah. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like it's not great, and I agree. We're 90% of the way there. We're
Yeah.
at the special cases, and to a certain extent, I think it's good to obviate some of the of combinator spaghetti, not all of it, because honestly, that was where you have to start getting into the nitty gritty mechanics of Factorio in order to truly appreciate how to solve some of these problems. Like an RS latch, you either understand how signals propagate on tick, or you don't make an RS latch. And that I don't think is a fair ask of the player, but that's just my take, and I am pleb out here.
I don't know
So,
if that's true though.
I mean, because you have to like connect the input to the output, right? And
It depends on it. I guess maybe somewhat. I
the
think
RS
it
latch is what
doesn't.
I'm thinking of.
Maybe an old version of it. The new RS latch is quite easy though, because of
Oh,
what we can do with combinators. It depends on exactly what you're doing, but if you're doing a basic RS latch where it's like, hey, turn on if thing is greater than 10,000, and then as soon as thing drops below 10,000, turn off. Like if that's the type of RS latch you want, you can do that with one decider combinator now. It does feed back into itself, but it basically, as soon as it hits 10,000, it outputs 8,000 more of that signal. And so as soon as that number starts going back down, it's giving a fake 8,000 to itself, that then until it gets down to 2,000, it won't turn off. And so it's kind of there's now a one combinator solution to an RS latch, which is pretty cool.
sure. That really wasn't. I was thinking of the example of like if I'm trying to count how many fuel cells have been put into a nuclear reactor and then taken back out of a nuclear reactor, and only turn the inserters on when when they must,
Right.
basically, and do that
Right.
as a result of steam. And that was the kind of RS latch I was thinking of, where it keeps track of a number
Gotcha.
across time. And so it's
Yeah,
like
and the
as you
tick,
say, a memory
yeah,
cell.
counting and memory cells that does require like on tick stuff. But to be fair, you don't need any of that to play Factorio.
You don't need it to play Factorio. There's a lot of stuff that I don't need, but I will that it's when the solution gets into those areas where you start thinking, this is what I would like to design. And
Right.
then I have to, in order to do so, to do this thing, I have to understand Factorio at an engine kind level, like kind of game
Right.
level. That's where I'm like, but that's just me. Like I said, I am rando pleb. So who cares?
Okay, moving on. Entities on a
Indeed.
space platform that have logistic connection enabled will use space platform hubs content. Um, I don't 1,000,000% understand exactly what this is saying because it's been a while. I think it's just saying you can connect stuff on the platform to the logistics and then it will see what's on the platform as like
Yeah,
to set conditions and stuff.
that's right.
So
Yeah,
you
and
don't have
it's
to wire it back to the hub.
but it's for enabled in particular, I think. So like if you say enable, like turn this inserter on if we
Right.
do not have enough iron plates so that you can like turn on grabbing
Yeah,
iron
it's
asteroids and
basically
stuff.
wires everything to the hub wirelessly. Is
Yeah,
just it is kind because you could have wired it to the hub before, but that was a pain in the butt. So now it
yeah,
just allows you to do that wirelessly.
sure.
Pipes
And that's
and okay,
yeah,
this one's huge. Pipes and
yes.
pipe to ground can be connected to the circuit network.
Finally,
Yes.
like
Woo!
again, this is great.
Oh, small
um,
tanks are now a thing. Oh, it's
yeah,
great.
that's true. Yeah, and you can do like, I actually I don't know. I'm assuming you can use circuits now and pumps to create like overflow valves and things like this, but I'm not
Much
certain.
easier.
I
Yeah,
haven't actually
yeah. I
explored it.
mean, you could do that
But
already, but you needed tanks and pumps.
exactly,
And
and then
now
you got to
you can
like
just have the pump and wire it to the
right,
pipe that's right in front of it. So
right,
that's huge.
yeah,
Um, Another big deal about this is it's not just reading that pipe. You can select read pipeline contents
hmm
as well. It's not just the pipe. And so it's really, and maybe that's mentioned later in a separate patch note.
it was
Uh,
in
yeah,
the
there it is.
Friday
It's the
Winter
next one.
Friday packs.
Added circuit network reads
Oh
for
yeah, for
pipeline
sure.
contents and fluid temperature. I was about to say that one too, to pipes, pipe to ground, and storage tanks. So when you
Yep.
wire up a pipe to ground, or a storage tank, previously it was just storage tanks, and previously it would only read the contents of that entity. It's basically like a whole belt read versus a just this belt read,
Exactly.
which we know what that did for sushi belts. Granted, pipes are always of the same item, so it's a little less like of an upgrade than not sushi belt was to sushi belt, but it's still a big upgrade to be able to read the whole pipeline contents.
Which is
Because then
sushi
you
pipe.
can add, previously if you were reading a tank and it was doing logic, if you added more pipes or tanks to that network, it messed with the logic. Because
Yeah.
now if that tank was 50% full, now that represents more total fluid in the network. And so you're changing everything when you did that. Now you can just read what's in the whole network and you can set
Yeah.
up your circuitry. And now adding more pipes or tanks isn't going to mess with that. However, what it will do, which could be bad in some scenarios, is it could mess with the flow rates if the new percentages of those cutoffs are way lower. Like that could end up messing with something. So it's a little bit of, but that's up to you. You can pick whether you want to read the tank or read the contents. So, and
Sure.
reading the temperature is pretty huge, especially for modded playthroughs. For Space Age, it only comes up in a couple cases, but um,
Yeah.
for
Well, and
modded
it's a
playthroughs,
fun
temperature
mechanic.
shows up everywhere.
It doesn't get used too much, so I think that's great to, especially from the modding perspective of being like, all right, well now, now that players can do this, we can be like, you have to get, we're gonna give you like temperature targets that you have to kind of hit.
Well, exactly, because now you can control mixing of different temps to
Mhm.
reach a target temp. And like you could technically do that before with a lot of careful
Yeah.
circuitry. Like you're like, okay, I want to hit a target temp, so I'll fill this tank to 2000 of this temperature and I'll fill this tank to 4000 of this temperature. I'll turn off the pumps and then I'll dump them together into one tank. And now I know that'll be like the temp that I want. Like you could do that, but that was such a pain. And now you can
Yeah.
just be like, oh, add in the cold stuff until it gets down below 1,000 degrees, and that's so
Yep.
easy now. So I'm expecting mods to explore more in the temperature world with this feature. Um,
Indeed.
okay, moving on.
Indeed.
Boilers and heat exchangers can be connected to the circuit network. Great.
So I'm just gonna go ahead and say soak in landmines and heat pipes under the same exact things. We're just gonna
Yeah.
roll past
Yeah,
those
a
two.
lot of things and labs. This one's a big one though. This one also
Well, that
wants a
one's gonna
little
say
bit of
let's pause on that
discussion.
one for a sec. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
So
landmines being connected to the circuit network is kind of
okay.
hilarious. They said why not as their reason, and I'm like, that's
Yeah.
fair, but
You know
also
what? I
like
agree.
why? That one's ridiculous, but
I want
fine.
a proximity sensor, and I hope that it can. I'm hoping on the modded side that a mine, now that it can be hooked up to a circuit network, can be turned into a better proximity sensor than a gate. But
Ooh,
meh, who knows?
interesting. Yeah, and heat pipes being connected to the circuit network's great, obviously, to read temperature at a certain point along the heat pipe, which, previously was a little trickier to do because you could only read the temperature of reactors. So
Right.
sometimes people would actually build a dummy reactor, which may be bad because it's a giant heat sink, which you might not want, but it would be able, then you could read the temperature along a pipe. But like now you
Mhm.
can just do the reading of the pipe. Anyway,
Yep.
labs can be connected to the circuit network. Discuss.
So we can do that. Obviously you can like read the
Yeah, what can you do
contents
with
and
it?
research cost, but one side part of this is that you can like anything can now be a research pack, and all research packs have been turned into regular items. That one will probably come across later, but that feeds into this because it means that us modders can say, "Hey, we can make virtually anything a researchable item," and now you have a lot more control over what things you're going to do at any given time. So you can like set the research based on certain criteria. So it says right there, set the current research based on conditions. So you could literally, because Factorio allows you to swap between technology researches without loss of progress, there is probably something you can do here in terms of having several technology researches going kind of forward at the same time. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but I love
Interesting.
that the avenue is there to explore.
Yeah.
Um,
You could have the player, you could have some sort of like ultra cube situation where you can only produce, like maybe you have some sort of mighty morphin cube that can only produce like, let's just call it A, B, C, D, four different things, and it
sure.
cycles through them. So once you produce an A, it's now spoiled or output into cube version B, and you can only make a B with that. And A, B, C, D are the four research packs to advance research. So you have to swap your research between A, B, C, D because you're generating A, B, C, D all in parallel. And you can't just do all of A and then all of B. You have to research in parallel if you want to be efficient. You could do something like that, just spitballing. Anyway, it's cool because it also, the big thing is it just allows you to read that labs are working, period,
Yeah,
which was
right. You get the
previously
rate.
impossible.
You can
If
get a rate.
anyone's, yeah, if anyone's been following my Pyanodon series and is up to date with it, the system I designed to figure out if I was researching something is absolutely absurd. So I set up a closed power system
Oh
with a
no.
bunch of steam that came into it, and it was measuring literally the flow rate of steam to the boilers to figure out how much power the system was using. And then as soon as you turn on research, well, the labs are now using more power. And then that would trigger the vat brains to turn on, which then also use power. But then those turning on makes the labs consume more power. So now my power's spiked up way huge. And then it's got an RS latch situation to measure like when it steps down a notch because the labs have stopped, but the vat brains are still running, then we know we're done researching and now we need to turn everything off and reset back to zero. And not to mention, how do you deal with putting steam into this? Because to measure the flow rate, the only way we previously had was to read a tank. So it was reading tanks, but then if I put steam into those tanks, it would interfere with the flow rate out. So I had two sets of tanks, and it had to switch between sets of tanks. When one got empty, it would switch over to the other one, and then that one would fill while the other one was getting emptied. So that way, none of them are ever getting filled while they're getting emptied. Now I can just read that the labs are working, bro. Like, this is crazy. 2
So
weeks
I just
after I
want to be
built this.
what you should be doing right now though. This is like the worst combination of like spacebar heating, right? And
Exactly.
it's like, dude, what in
Exactly.
Rube Goldberg machine. It's like
Thankfully, it won't break my setup, what they've added.
Rube
But
Goldberg spacebar heating is no longer I guess it is still a viable option, but
yeah, my
not the
system will
best.
still work. It's just not needed anymore, which is great. But yeah, I mean, what's cool about this mainly is that it will allow players to set different infinite researches to be automatic when they have the right packs for it. Like if there's like 5 different infinite researches that require A, B, C, D, E uniquely, you could set it up
Mhm.
so that like you're researching A
Right.
if you have A and you're researching B if you have B, and you can just let it go. And that's super nice for the
Yeah.
like mega basing late game as well. But all in all, really great change, something that we needed big time. And I'm grateful to have it. And I think it's really
Indeed.
funny that I solved this problem like mere
The
weeks
most
before the
asinine way.
solution. Yeah, I mean, it's what I had to do. I couldn't think of a better
Yeah.
way. The
Yeah,
only other
no,
way would have been
valid.
electric accumulators to do the same thing, but the problem with that in Pi specifically is that they like I would have needed an absurd amount of accumulators to accomplish this,
I
and
see.
you you can't as easily separate accumulators because they're just one entity. Whereas with
Right.
like because to charge them, you have to charge them from one power network and discharge them to another one, and that's a lot harder. Whereas with Steam, you can just create the Steam in one power network and then use it to make power in a different one. So that was easier to
Sure.
separate out. Anyway, moving on, added separate circuit network controls for disabling harvesting and planting to agricultural towers. Super nice.
Indeed.
So you can just have them always be planting, but only harvest under certain conditions. Whereas previously, you could only enable harvest and plant at the same time, which was kind of annoying because it could waste grow time on empty spots, basically.
Yeah. I mean, this was something I didn't get a ton into because, like I said, Glebe was where I bailed, but like that sounds great.
Yeah.
That sounds like more stuff that I can do as a modder in order to make fun happen.
That's for sure. And I mean, it is a pretty big deal for Space Age because what you would do is you would have them only run when you needed it, but the problem is that would result in inefficient. You had just had empty plots of land that weren't growing anything because
Sure.
the thing wasn't on. But if you turn it on,
Right.
it'll also harvest, and so now you can just separately harvest, but always
Gotcha.
plant. For example, this next one's pretty big. Added universe mode of operation to radar circuit connections for cross surface signals, something that was previously a mod in Space Age or Space Exploration. Sorry,
Yeah.
is now allowed by default, and there are different channels, I believe.
That was going to be my next question. Are there channels, and what kind of limitations can I put on this? Because as a this is completely separate. This is so I'm the force of modding, right? So when I look at a lot of these things, I don't think of it just as a gameplay thing. I also want to
Uh
build
huh.
the mod stuff. Can I have like, and I don't think this is the case. Can I have like a mask where certain planets can talk to each other, but other groups of planets can't, or is
As
it
far
just
as I
all
know, the
universe?
masks are unique and individual. You can only be on channel 1 or channel 2. There's no like channel 1 plus 2. There's no bit masking situation there.
Sure.
As
Okay.
far as I understand, you can sort of create that by having receivers on two different channels, and then you just wire those together, and now you're
Sure.
you're receiving on channels 1 and 2. But you would also, if you input things to those, you would be sending on channels 1 and 2, but you can separate your inputs and outputs. So overall, you can sort of approximate it with multiple radars. But within
Okay.
one radar, it can only read and write to one channel.
What I was hoping to do is to limit like the player to be able to essentially unlock further channels as they go on, but also
Oh,
like if like you're limited to this radar can only talk to novice and its moons, but can't
oh,
talk to
that
other
would be
planets.
really cool.
Wouldn't it?
I don't know how you would. I guess what you could do, sort of, if there's a way to lock a radar into a certain channel, you could preset what they are. But I don't know if there's a way to force lock that GUI element because it's one of
Yeah.
like a pipette thing where you like select it. I don't know if you can
This
keep
is
the
a code
player
green
from.
question.
Yeah, it's possible that you could pre-create them, set them to an ally force, and then you can't change your allies radar, but you can utilize the circuit connection. Maybe.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm just spitballing.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, that's a big one because this gets us halfway to what I wanted in Space Age, to being able to talk to other planets, because you can at least see what other planets are missing from their storage in terms of like
Yeah.
if you
Sure.
want like if you want a bunch, let's say you want 500 inserters on Gleba, now you can look at how many inserters are on Gleba. You still can't specifically see how many are wanted in the construction network, which is one of the big features that we still don't have that I'm really bummed about. But you can at least see that you're missing something on Gleba before the ship visits. Like you can preempt some things like that, which is nice.
Sure.
Um,
Cool.
but yeah, that's a big one.
Like it.
Space platform hub can set requests from the circuit network, so that's nice. It just, a ton of these are basically more control over space logistics,
Right.
which is super nice. Like, is what they sum up to. Orbital requests can be set to import from any planet. That's a big one. That's super nice. You can have a collector that collects stone from everywhere and just drops stone in one place, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Orbital request can request from other space platforms. That's a big one. There were whole mods made to allow you to do this, and now it's just
Sir
allowed.
Puck. Sorry,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah. I mean, it's a badge of honor when your mod becomes the base game in a way.
I call it the mod goes to Mod Holla. That's my
Yeah,
way
exactly.
of coping.
We talked a lot about this when Space Age came out, like which mods were dead, and but like some of them, like they're only half dead because the mod can still do something that the game can't. Sure. And this may be the same. I didn't ever use any of these mods, and I don't know exactly how this feature looks in Space Age. I assume it's free though if you're around the same planet, which is a pretty big deal.
It will be.
And let's see. Why don't you kind of? I'll finish this set of Space Age stuff, and then you can pick up. Sure. Added logic to batch small platform requests into one rocket and use mixed rockets, which are filled manually or with inserters for automated launches. That's a lot of words. I'll read it again. Added logic to batch small platform requests into one rocket and use mixed rockets, which are filled manually or with inserters for automated launches. Yeah. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I like it. It's been one of the biggest complaints I had about the early experience when things were very valuable, and I would be spending like an entire rocket on just being like, all right, I guess I'll send up like an inserter or whatever, right?
Yeah, you're like, I want one inserter, 2 belts, 1 assembling machine, 3 turrets, 40 bullets, and like those could all fit in one rocket, but it wouldn't automatically do that. And so now it just does, which is super nice. As far as I can tell, you can read more about this in the FFF from a couple weeks ago, but they did a lot of work to make this system just kind of work out of the box the way that it should. As far as I could tell, pretty much all of the ways that they made it work are the ways that you'd want it to work in most cases. And in the cases where you don't want it to work that way, you can just manually assign it to, not do mixed things. Well, I don't think you can tell it not to do mixed things, but
it's that you make I think you have like,
if the request is big enough, it just won't do mixed because it can fill a rocket with one item. So anyway, this is a tiny feature, added ruins and decoratives to Fulgora oil sands, a little bit more lore, which is fun on the oil sands. Storage tank fluid volume increases with quality. That's a pretty big one. Allows you to store more fluids in the same amount of space with legendary tanks. This one's a bigger deal. Cargo wagon inventory size increases with quality.
That's nice.
And locomotive power and max speed increases with quality, but not acceleration. No, it already did acceleration, right? That's why that's missing from that sentence. Right? No, acceleration's not a research. Braking is.
Braking. Yeah, sorry. Well,
that is. I think acceleration already was helped by quality, so now it's acceleration, power, and max speed are all helped. I could be wrong about that though.
Braking is an acceleration. It's just a negative acceleration. That's what physics.
That is true, but they're separate words as far as upgrades go in Factorio. I when I'm tutoring my calc students, there's so much talk about like velocity versus speed, because velocity is like allowed to be negative and it means you're going backwards, but speed is always positive and it's just how fast are you going in whichever direction you happen to be going. Good times.
There's drivers that helps. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay, so allowed placement of elevated rails over cargo bays, but those cargo bays are blocked from receiving cargo pods. That's super nice.
Sure. Yeah. I just like. Good. Well, I was gonna say, I just like the fact that you can now like extract from these things, but I don't think we've gotten to that one yet.
Yeah, that's a different one. Then that's the next one. Added landing pad unloading bay.
Yeah. Thank you.
So
thank you.
Now
I felt like I had this. My landing pad was just this pig, and with all these piglets hanging off the side of it, and there was only a finite amount of space that I could.
There's only so many teats.
But I mean, because you had a finite space, and so it's like,
true.
No matter what you do, you just can't have like, oh, I want like all the products. No, you get wrecked.
So now you can have a big line of like, and you can alternate if you want to space it out more, but you can do cargo pad, unloading bay, and so now you can just have a big line of unloading. And you can access, one train station to each or something. And it's just like so much cleaner what you can do with it now. You still cannot load into those though. Like wait, what am I?
Can you? I don't know. You might be right.
Well, no,
that
you
one,
can. Sorry. You can. What can you not do? You just can't have a second one. Is all. You just can't have a second landing pad. Is all I'm thinking of.
Oh, right. Yeah, you still are limited to having one landing
Yeah,
pad. Which
still
I
only
still
one
don't
per
like, but,
planet.
that's me.
But now you can expand it out to be a wide boy, you could say, and that would allow you to unload into multiple different spots onto your planet.
Yep.
Which is nice.
Yep. That is true.
I'm assuming cargo bots can still only pick up from the main one though, and not the unloading bays.
I don't
Like
know. I thought they had
logistics
like
bots.
rocket. I thought they had Roboport looking thingies on there, but maybe I'm wrong.
I don't remember. Yeah, I need to revisit the FFF. I don't remember if unloading bays can be visited by logistics bots or just the main landing pad.
Forget.
This one's a big deal
right now.
Okay, I'll keep talking while you do that. Pumps can connect to fluid wagons on both ends, so you can do train-to-train pumpage, kind of like you could insert from train to train. Now you can do that.
It looks.
I assume this is later, but it's what's that?
It looks pretty cursed in some cases. It's great.
It does. They also added the ability for pumps to just connect better to train wagons that are on curves, which is kind of a quality of life thing that might be mentioned later, but I'll say it now. Flamethrower turrets can be rotated diagonally now, which is cool for when you've got like a diagonal turret wall. You don't have to do this weird like back and forth thing, and they maybe, anyway. That's just a nice defensive feature. Added latency hiding for remotely driven cars. I mean, that's great. Added patrol support to Spidertrons. That one actually matters a lot for people who use like the Spidertron construction mods and stuff. It allows you to do a lot more building with one Spidertron because you can patrol it and it can build as it patrols around. So you could like patrol it along the front lines and it'll repair and rebuild stuff rather than needing a separate Spidertron for every spot along the front line. So that's cool.
Indeed.
Fast transferring modules to Entity Ghosts will add them as module requests. Yeah, that's great. Allows you to do more from map view. Locomotives will auto pull fuel from passengers. Super nice. Allows you to not need to manually place fuel into the locomotive you want to drive somewhere.
Or you don't have to like Flintstone your way out.
Exactly. I've been using the mod Catch a Ride now from Putinator. Who made it basically on my request as I was playing Pi. I'm like, I just want to walk up to the rails and hit a button, and then I can just control click where I want to go, and I go. And he made that mod, and it's great.
Nice.
Added a button to Factoriopedia to hide unresearched content. That one's a big deal.
Kind of like
for that, mod packs to not just see everything from minute one. I still think recipe book is needed, but
there's one thing that I want that I will never get related to that, though.
With
and I know I'm never going to get it. That is, I want certain entries to be different based on settings. So, like, if I have... There was a time when I was doing Galdoc manufacturing where I was making tooltips to tell the player, this is what you can do with this particular item, and this is what makes that particular item. These are the machines it's made in, because it was a lot of complexity when it came to taking a plate and turning it into something you can build something with, right? I was fanning out that stuff. And some people wanted that tooltip in there, some people did not. And that's fine, I could make an option for it. But what I couldn't do was change the Factoriopedia to also be the same. Like I wanted to be able to have the Factoriopedia have the fan out or not. And that was something that I thought would have been very useful. The corollary to that is I would like it if, let's say I have a particular substance, like a magical substance. I don't know, I'm thinking of Krastorio had, what was that purple stuff?
Immersite?
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. So like if there were some special properties to Immersite that I didn't want the player to know about at first, what would be really cool is based on the tech that's been researched, like having a tech unlock, change what shows up in the Factoriopedia so that it like adds stuff in as you learn more about the thing. Or more
that'd be cool.
Thing. That would be amazing to be able to do. Then all of a sudden, information about the game starts being a thing that
you're like discovering.
Exactly. Yeah. But that is unfortunately one of those things.
That's the Factorio 2 kind of stuff that I dream about. And that like fungible ingredients, the idea of like just the idea of like, what if you did an alchemy game where like it was all about like literally like atomic weights, and you could use different things fungibly, but like, okay, you need a noble gas for this, but like, which noble gas are you going to use? You could use any one of them, but like, you need a certain amount of moles of, like a noble gas. So like, if you use a lighter one, you need more of it, or like, I don't know. There's just so much stuff that you can imagine, but like, you can't really do it the way you'd want to do it in Factorio modding. And those are the things where I'm like, Factorio 2 could do all of those in my dreams, like.
Sure.
Anyway,
I just wanted to point out Avocado's number spotted in the wild. Yes, I did say avocado. That was on purpose.
Avocado.
It's avocado. I know. But
yeah. I know what you're saying. Chemistry jokes. Added button. Okay, added fluid mixing warnings. If you attempt to connect two pipes with different fluids, a warning will be shown until the conflict is resolved. So that's nice.
It says you don't know how to play the game.
Well, or you just built something with bots that normally wouldn't be able to be built. But yeah. Added an interface to disable visualization of fluid pipelines when you're holding a fluid-related entity. This is nice for the visual spam. If you had a crazy spaghetti and you didn't want to see the fluid pipelines when you pick up a pipe, you can turn that off. I think in most cases you want it on still, but it's nice to be able to turn it off. Added a checkbox and a hotkey to visualize fluid pipelines that an entity is a member of. So that's kind of like locking in the pipeline you're looking at, but you can just keep it on.
You want to see the network of the thing, right? Or the extent, whatever.
Which means we're about 80% of the way to fluid pipeline visualization being a dead mod. I think the only thing that one can still do is the pipeline view, where it grays everything out.
Oh yeah,
which is kind of nice sometimes if you're building a bunch of stuff, like different pipelines at the same time.
Honestly, I wish that was. I like that dimming. It makes a lot of difference to my brain.
And the colors, all the pipelines being a different color plus the dimming, it makes it really readable, which the vanilla doesn't quite get to. Anyway, for the most part though, that mod's a dead mod now because 2 of the things it did are now done in vanilla. It's also mostly
it's Rygaard's mod.
It's Rygaard's mod who probably developed these features. Yeah, exactly.
He's the fluids guy too, right?
Yep, yep, he sure is. That beautiful man. Okay, added toggle visibility of tall entities shortcut, which makes elevated rails translucent and unselectable. Booyah!
I'm pointing to a tall entity.
That's funny. Yeah, you're not invisible, no matter how much you check this box.
I'm not invisible, no.
But this is a huge feature. So many people requested it, and now you can just hit the button, and your rails go away. And tall entities, which I assume can be flagged via modding.
I want to see what that looks like. What I would imagine is that like the base is still there, but like it fades out as it goes up. I'm not sure. I want to look at and see what it looks like.
Yeah, visually, I'm not sure what that looks like. I'm guessing it's either that or it's like Roller Coaster Tycoon, where it literally just like there's no visual effect. It literally just doesn't show it. Period, and it's just gone.
I see.
I don't know if it's like.
Oh, that's actually fair too. As long as I still know that the base is there. What I was concerned is if
like you wouldn't know where they are now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sounds like they're just mostly transparent. Perfect. That's actually great.
Yeah, but the main thing, almost bigger than the translucency, in my opinion, is the unselectability, because you couldn't click through them. And if you had a bunch of elevated rails, it literally, you had to delete them to build underneath them.
I hated that.
And that was just not okay. So now you had to make a blueprint that you then would somewhere else that you would then paste underneath it. That was the only way to do it. Whereas now you can just make them invisible, build what you need to build, and make them visible again. So that's super great.
Are these buttons in the little cluster, the lower right cluster? I'm not sure what to call that, but like,
it does say shortcut. I assume you can do a button in the little button area, or you can do a hotkey. Because shortcut, I think, is both.
Sure. Well, a keyboard shortcut will do that thing, but I think if it's that little button,
no, I think it would call it a hotkey. If it's called a shortcut, I think it is one of the buttons in the bottom right. I think that's the word they use for that. I could be wrong.
Shortcuts and hotkeys were maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, in a lot of games, they're interchangeable, but in this game, I think shortcut means the buttons in the bottom right.
Yeah,
and the hotkey specifically means a keyboard button only.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Anyway. Okay, so right-clicking a pin with a Spidertron with a remote in hand will send the spiders to the pin location. So that's just easy control of a bunch of Spidertrons. Great. Added a hotkey to toggle snap to grid on the currently held blueprint, unbound by default. That
That's
one's
actually
kind of a
nice.
big deal. Yeah.
When I'm making my rails, it's very nice to be able to snap to the grid, but then I can't use that if I have to like do an adjustment because there's like some terrain feature that I can't address at that particular time in the texture.
Yeah,
So
but
like being able to
then
nudge it over is nice.
but if you adjust one of them, it would throw off the rest of them. So this is only needed in some specific edge cases where you have a type of blueprint that mostly you want on the grid, but sometimes you'd want to paste it off the grid, but it wouldn't
Yeah.
break the rest of what you do on the rest of the grid, because then you'd need to adjust the. Now you can adjust the grid itself though pretty easily
Usually,
too with the
what I
shift.
usually do is I'll adjust off the grid, do something, and then come back to the grid is what I would like to usually do.
Well, but I'm
If that
even
makes sense.
saying it's now pretty possible to just turn off the grid, build where you need to build, and then turn on the grid again. And then you can do the Shift Control Alt arrow key thing, or I don't remember which modifier keys it needs, but it allows you to adjust the actual grid snapping while you're
Oh,
looking at it, which is
fair
a
enough.
great feature. And so now you could just adjust it the 3 tiles up that it needs to be adjusted. And now, even though your grid isn't perfect across the whole base, it does what you need it to do. So it's just great that you can do this, is all I'm saying.
Fair. Yep, I agree.
More options are always good. Added support for language IME on Mac OS and Linux. Added support for on-screen keyboards on Windows and Linux desktop. Added auto Linux video driver setting, which will prefer Wayland if the compositor implements FIFO-V1, but will otherwise prefer X11. I don't know what any of that means, and I don't care.
Basically, the short answer is that X11 is a very old standard that Linux uses to display stuff, and Wayland is far better. It's more modern, but things are having to adopt over to it.
Sure.
So
I'm glad they're improving things. That's all I have to say. Added support for blueprint
also right, by the
string,
way.
drag and drop on Wayland, and added. Okay, this is new. I have not. Why did they put this at the bottom after all the Linux stuff? I didn't even read this before. Added time mode to selector combinator. It allows you to read the game tick, time of day, and duration of a day.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know.
Nice?
This is new to me right now. I didn't know this. This is amazing.
So nice?
On different planets, you can read the day length, so you can have a combinator automatically give you the ratio. Well, not automatically, but you can build a combinator setup to calculate the ratio of accumulators to solar panels in game, and it will automatically do it on different planets correctly.
Instead of grabbing a calculator and doing it by hand, let's make combinator setups to just do
but
it
I mean,
no matter what the planet is.
But that would only work if the day length was given to you in the game, which I guess the planet view does. Does that say day length in the planet view in Space Age? I can't remember.
I don't know if it does, but I think it's in the
I think it does. I think it does. Anyway, all that to say, it's really cool that there's a time mode on selector combinators. I did not know that, and my mind is being blown. Time of day allows you to set up a thing that triggers once per day or twice per day, or in general. Hold on. I'm just freaking out right now. So this also allows you, if you just put a modulo on that thing, you now have a timer, which previously was not that easy to set up for new players. Like, if you don't know how to set up a timer, it wasn't that easy to like figure it all out. You can do it with one decider combinator, but a lot of new players, like, they wanted a timer where it's like, I just want it to count up to 60 and then reset. And that was a lot harder. And now you can just read the time of day in modulo, and that feels simpler logic wise.
I wonder how many players know what modulo is.
They probably don't. So
I know we do.
You could also
I know a lot of people do, but
I guess you could divide by. Would division work as well? No, I don't think it would.
You could do some. I mean, modulo it's basically a very interesting wrapping of division, but
it would make a slower timer. It would count up slower if you divided the time of day by a number.
What I want to know is the duration of a day that is one day-night cycle. I want to know how much of that is like sunny, and I don't know if that ratio is baked in there.
That is a problem. You'd have to read the output of a. You're right. That one's not given to us. Oh well.
But still, nonetheless, that's cool.
Yeah, that's great.
I like the read game tick for sure.
Yeah, because it's just a constantly going up time. Though, am I crazy? The game tick's never gonna pass the number limit, right? Because that's in the billions.
I think it was this was a while back that we were told it would be longer than the age of the universe, or something along those lines by Rygaard. That was another one of his moments. But yeah, the tick limit is going to be it'll be fine.
But isn't it 2 billion is the number limit?
That's a I-32 in 32. I think
Isn't
this is
that
something
what
else
the
now.
signals are in the game?
It was like infinite. Okay, hold on. I think the Factorio for artifacts had the word infinite in it somehow. I wonder
Because
if I can
if it's
find it.
2 billion for 60 ticks, 60 seconds, 60 minutes, that's only 9,000 hours, which is, I'm sure there are some Factorial
Oh wow,
players
that's
with
not right.
more than 9,000 hours in their
Signals are in
save.
32. Okay. Well then yeah, I thought
So,
in 32 was like 2 point something billion.
so yours, yeah, right. And
But there
so
was a
2 billion ticks is only 9,300 hours. Oh, the
wasn't
game
there
tick
something
itself is UINT 64, but the problem is the signal you get from this combinator will probably have to wrap around after you play 9,300 hours. Just a warning to that one Factorial player out there, who is not only playing 9,300 hours but also using this combinator, which is also a pretty small use case.
There you go.
There you go.
That's kind of hilarious.
Look, I like to make sure I understand all the things, even if they'll never happen to me. All right, do you want to start reading through some of these balancing things? We gotta pick up the pace here, so let's just go
Well,
fast.
the balancing things, I'm probably less. I mean, I can try, but the problem is that
Well,
I
yeah,
don't
just
know
read
as
them.
much.
I'll interrupt if it's worth talking about, but a lot of them are kind of
Do you
not
want to
that
do it
big of
in
a
a
deal.
silly robot voice?
Let's read through. You read through like 10 of them, and I'll go back and talk about one or two
I'm
of
gonna
them.
read it in a silly robot voice, at least one of them. Disallow quality modules to be applied to crushers with asteroid pre-processing recipes. That was
Pretty
my silly
good.
robot voice. I'm done with that forever. But that's I think cool. But that's one of those I think gets rid of the gamba, and a lot of people are upset about that. So I don't want to say that too loudly, but I am a billion% certain that that has been turned into a mod. So that's a thing that you can still have if you want it.
Yeah,
Um,
this one's huge though. Pretty much I'll talk about this one and then maybe literally none
Space
of the
Casino,
rest. This is
sure.
one of the biggest changes. Like, this is a massive change to how people play the game, because a lot of people, almost you could say the meta strategy for a lot of people, was building a space platform that would collect rocks, make everything legendary, and then you would make everything from that. Like, that was
Yeah,
the
I
source of
wouldn't be
your
surprised.
entire economy, was these asteroids getting towards legendary stuff. And so this is a massive balance change. I'm honestly kind of surprised they made such a ground shaking change this late into the game. We're well over a year into the game. You know, if they had done
Yeah,
this a month after the game came out, that'd be one thing. But this is like, players have been doing this
sure.
meta for almost years now. I think we're closer to 2 years than anything. But that being said, I think it's a good change. I think it should
Yeah,
have been this way from the beginning. So I
yeah.
support the change in essence. I didn't play enough of Space Age to have like a strong personal opinion on how I feel about it, because I never did this. But I do agree that it kind of was a little bit too like boring. Like, you can get
It,
legendary everything by doing this, and that's just too easy or too
yeah, it,
simple or something. I don't know.
in a game like Factorio, or in many games, but in particular a game like Factorio, players will optimize the fun out of the game,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I
The
think that's awful,
classic.
and I think that it's a good thing for them to do. I think that it is a particularly good thing for them to do because it is workaroundable by a mod, and I think that people who
Yeah.
still want it
You can
can
just add
have
it
it.
back in.
Exactly. So if this was something that you had done, like I'm kind of with you in that I didn't do it, and it's not because I didn't know about it. I didn't, but like if I had known about it,
I
I
mean,
still
you
wouldn't
weren't
do it
far enough in the
because it
game for it
sounds
to
no fun.
matter, even.
Well, I had no. Well, I'd done Fulgora, so I did
Right,
have.
but this was
It wasn't
main.
legendary yet.
Yeah, the main
Um,
change that this is for is people who had, because you usually didn't do this until you were pretty far into the game, because it wasn't worth like getting a bunch of asteroids to uncommon and then doing that, because like you
right.
needed a lot of the beacons and other faster build, like you kind of needed the exponential growth to make this sort of thing worth it. um
Y-
but
Yeah, no, but what I had done the thing where on Fulgora I had built two separate entire things to try to quality up something.
yes,
Those were quality from top down because a lot of the things you get from Fulgora are things like, low density structure and
yeah, yeah,
CPUs, and I would take them apart. I also would have also taken out the notion of I put a CPU in a crusher and got out a higher quality product. So like putting quality in the recyclers always never it never made sense to my brain. But that's more
yeah.
of a like that's more of a context thing rather than a gameplay thing. So whatever.
Yeah, it's more of a lore issue than anything.
Wait, but it doesn't make any sense. Like I took a hammer to my computer and I made it better. What? No.
No, it didn't make sense.
Reduce acid
Quality in general, I think, it doesn't make a lot of sense for a lot of reasons, but like it's a fun mechanic for a lot of reasons too. So it's very divisive, as we've had many conversations about quality.
We've had so many. I'm not going to do it again.
All right, so just head through all these basic balance changes.
Reduced acid neutralization fluids and crafting time by 10x, which is good because now things can do things more properly. They talked a little bit
Just
about
makes the
this in one of
numbers
Factorio
smaller,
frames.
so they're not like absurd amounts of fluid is all.
But so absurd that the pipes couldn't keep
Exactly.
up. Like now
Yes.
the pipes can keep up.
Yeah.
Reduced biter spitter spawner rating spawn. Oh my god, this sentence is like a tongue twister. Reduced biter spitter spawner spawning range and increased spawning precision. I swear to God, that's what it says on the page.
He said it exactly correctly that time. That is what it says. Biter spitter spawner spawning range.
This is like a swear. Child book. Let's read this. Shotguns no longer slow the player when shooting.
Nice.
Doom. All right. Reduced price of piercing shotgun shell recipe. Cool.
Nice.
Moved piercing shotgun shells from military 4 to 3. Okay.
Nice.
Moved combat shotgun from 3 to 4. Get
Sad.
wrecked. Increased piercing shotgun shell damage from 8 to 12. So half again.
It's a big deal.
It is. Increased combat shotgun damage bonus from 20 to 50%. Yeah, I never really used the shotguns after a certain point.
Yeah,
Like,
they buffed everything about shotguns. Keep going. There's
which
more.
is good because I just wouldn't.
Yeah.
Shotgun pellet hit effect will slow the enemies down briefly. Now that might make me use it.
Mm-hmm.
The increased shotgun shooting speed from 1 to 1.5 seconds. Okay. Increased. That actually makes sense, especially if you're getting a slow effect on the enemies.
No. That's it's 1 per second to 1.5 per second. It's increasing the fire rate.
That's not the refire time. I see now. Okay,
Yeah.
I got you.
Fire rate's up by
Holy crap, that's even
50%.
better.
Damage bonus on combat shotguns up by 50%. Damage on piercing shells is up by 50%. It slows enemies. It doesn't slow you while you're shooting. So it's like a big crowd control weapon now. It allows you to run away safely.
Also, using the shotgun will now play BFG division. Okay. Sorry.
That's only in Galdoc's version. He's going to make a mod for that.
Increased rocket turret base health from 400 to 1500. Okay, so almost 4 times as much. Increased Tesla turret base health from 1000 to 2000. I don't know in which scenarios these really mattered, but sure. Like I would figure that if you're getting
On
attacked,
Gleba.
then probably Gleba. Yeah, that's true. Space platform hub max health is going from 1000 to 5000, which I guess makes it survive more than an asteroid hit. I don't know. Added space platform hub impact damage resistance of 50%. Okay, well then yes. Increased crushing asteroid chunk yield from what are these? Just use the word asteroid once in the sentence. Anyways.
Well, but the name of the recipe is asteroid crushing, and then the thing that it yields is an asteroid chunk.
This is a real pain in my asteroid, okay?
This
is the second time I got to make that joke.
Nice.
I don't know why I'm like this. Fixed asteroid chunks were not marked as lossy catalyst. I understand what they're saying.
Yeah, that relates to prod modules and how much it adds or whatever. But it also increases the advanced yield from 5 to 10%. So that's to accommodate the changes they made to quality, I think, because now since you can't quality that, I think they're making the yield quite a bit higher. You also skipped over the enemy expansion one.
Oh, did I? Oh, I did. You're right. Oh, I missed the centrifuge stack size to 10 now also. So the enemy expansion planner to reduce expansions in already infested areas.
That feels like a big deal.
Planner?
Yeah, so I assume, at least this is assumptions, not knowledge, but I think what this means is it makes enemy expansions spread out more rather than densify into certain areas, which actually is kind of annoying because it just means they're going to be
they're going to find your
polka dotted all over the place even more than they already were, which at the end of the day, like if you're cleaning up biters or pentapods, you're cleaning up biters or pentapods, like I don't know how much this really changes. It's tough to know without more details what the effect of this really is, but I assume it's just a little more consistency.
Yeah. But yeah, so those were the balancing changes. And then just the features, balancing, and then just regular old changes writ large, I suppose.
Yeah, so the
Um,
next one is just changes. I don't know how changes balancing features.
I
I
don't know.
guess changes is kind of like features, but not a new feature, maybe. Anyway,
Yeah, I
inserters
don't know.
dropping items onto splitters always insert onto the input lines.
Good. Thank
What's
you.
not
See,
clear about that is what about if you're inserting perpendicular to the splitter? Because now we can select inserters to go left or right. So can't you insert onto the output side if let's say the splitter's going to the right, you're an inserter going from bottom to top into the side of that splitter. Can't you select the inserter to go on the right side, which would be the output side of the splitter? That's a part of this that kind of confused me.
I don't think that matters. I think what it's saying is that no matter where it goes into it, it's going to go into the input. Pretty much just period.
But
Even if
like
you put it,
visually, that's
even if it
super
visually,
wrong. Yeah.
it is visually wrong. But
Because the
I'll
splitter's
take the.
halfway on the belt, and then like if you're placing onto the right side of that, that's on the output part of the. And you kind of like this is actually a base breaking change for some bases because some people utilized like if you're playing with Bob's adjustable inserters, for example, you need to be able to put it on the output versus the input side. I would sometimes be like, okay, I've got this inserter here. I want it to go on the input side, and I'd make sure it was on the square that went on the input side. Or I want this to go after that splitter, so I'll put it on the output side. Now, it wasn't very often you're putting on the output side of a splitter, so like they did pick the better option here. But yeah, it's a little weird.
I've been playing Factorio wrong because I never even thought about that. I always thought this is the dumb part of my brain. I didn't realize it wasn't like this. I thought it just was like this. I didn't even realize you could
Yeah.
put something on a splitter and have it be on the output side. I
Well,
just
Code
always thought it
Green,
went
you're
to the
saying
input.
it's always input, but I'm talking about with the new setting that allows inserters to go left versus right on belts. But what if that left versus right is now used on a sideways splitter? Or extended question is about Bob's adjustable inserters, where you actually can just select the 9 little squares that you can place onto. Can that
Yeah.
put onto the output part of a splitter? Or is there now like code for a splitter that says if an inserter plops an item anywhere onto me, it goes onto the input of the splitter? Like that's what I'm not clear on. Is like if you're
If it goes into
definitely putting it onto the
right
output
now,
side, does
even
it
if you
still
put it
go
on
in
the
the
output
input?
side, it's still going to go in the input.
That's crazy.
I'm not making fun of you right now, but I'm going to do a bit. It was from The Simpsons when he's like, "Well, Homer, I just wanted to let you know that when you're playing when the character is playing the xylophone on the cat's rib cages, sometimes the hammer would strike the exact same rib and yet create two different tones, which is clearly physically inaccurate." And then Homer said, "You're a nerd."
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that was the
exactly.
entire response. I am not making fun of you. I totally understand. However, that is what came to mind.
Oh, you don't get the left right option on the inserters if it's on a splitter. That's helpful. Code Green just mentioned that.
I see. Okay.
So, and Code Green said he also believes it's only in the tiebreaker case, which means Bob's adjustables you should still be able to do on the output side of a splitter, potentially. I don't know. It's not that big of a deal. We got to keep going. Changed hazard concrete and refined concrete to recycle into the recipe ingredients of concrete and refined concrete rather than hazard. Rocket launch animation times scale slightly with silo quality, so they launch a little faster at Legendary, I guess.
Slightly. I love the word that they just had to put that slightly in there to make you just realize that, yeah, we did the thing you asked for, but it sucks.
I mean,
It's like,
well, but it'd be crazy if they made the animation 2.5x faster. Like that would just look bad.
I'm pretty sure that I could do like a thing where it's like rocket.
I
and it would
mean,
just
you'd
look
need to
cool.
make a new animation though. If they just scaled the same animation 2.5x, I think it would look kind of bad.
Some of it would, yeah, that's right. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
some of it
all
think
that
would
I mean.
work fine, but some
If
of
they
it I
made
don't think.
separate animations for each quality of silo, that could be doable to keep the speeds accurate. Anyway, made it
this cartoony stretch and squash to the right.
exactly. But it is a nice change because it means your legendary silos can get rockets out a little faster. Made it easier to click on moving entities in remote view. I don't even really know what the issue was or what they changed, but sure, it's great. Made remote view dragging more stable in multiplayer. Great. Remote view will activate chunks when zoomed in, so biters and fish move around. That's actually very nice. That should have been true the whole time. It was very weird to zoom in on frozen enemies. Updated to SDL3, great. Updated minimum Mac OS version to 10.13, great. Or not great, I don't know. Added Mac OS 26, something, icon. Reduced Steam's max temperature. I really wish they had separated out these like engine level like operating system changes from the game changes. They feel so separate, and they just mixed them in there. It feels really weird ordering to me. Okay, reduced Steam's max temperature to 500 degrees, as that is the highest temperature that can be produced in space age. I assume there's a lot of mods that this is going to break, and they'll have to re-add their manual max temperature.
To some degree.
Gosh. Removed unused temperature ranges and heat capacities from many fluids. Again, that's great for the base game. Probably breaks a lot of mods that now need to manually change things to whatever they were before. Attaching an entity with a filtered input-output port to a pipeline will lock the whole pipeline to that filter. So this is a big deal. If you have a flow-through, like the in Space Age, like the thrusters, and you attach the pipe with the orange goop to the input of orange goop, that pipe is now filtered to orange goop, and you can only, like, even if it's empty, which previously the pipe as empty could have been attached to anything, but now it can only be attached to orange goop related stuff. I guess you could attach it to outputs that aren't orange goop because that's not a filter, but anyway. But they won't output into that pipe, which is nice. Like, you can't accidentally output a wrong thing into a pipe that was meant for orange goop input later.
I'm hoping someday that they'll do a thing where you can like just flush the fluids out of the pipe, but this takes us a long way to not needing that feature.
You can already do that with the button. Do you mean in an automated way? There's a fluid pipe flush button. There has been for a long time, Galdoc. You can just select a pipe and hit the trash can button, and it deletes everything in the pipe. Galdoc's having his mind blown right now at this. I think this was around either for 2.0 or even before 2.0. It's been around for a while now.
This was been around for a long time.
Yeah, Code Green says it's 1.1. It's been around since before Space Age.
Great. So that's well after, you know.
It's like it's like 5 years old feature here that Galdoc's learning about. Hey, you know,
I know this may be a shock to some of you, but it turns out that I was not born knowing everything. Okay, in fact, most things I didn't know.
You're one of the 10,000. It's great. Okay,
thank you.
Yeah. XKCD reference. Got to keep going.
Indeed.
Removed unused temperature range. Nope, said that. Added fluid box index to simple coal liquefaction. Great. I don't even know what that means. Pumps can now connect to non-aligned wagons. I mentioned that earlier. It's a nice change. It allows you to do curved rails. Previously, you could do them for items if you kind of knew what you were doing, but you couldn't ever do them for fluids. Now you can. It's a nice change. I think most players...
It's wonderfully cursed. Cursed.
Most players enjoy rails to be on straight lines already, but like, you know, whatever.
Well, there was one use case that they listed there, which was when you think that it's straight, but it turns out that it just barely
was like one
pixel
pixel,
the train, and you're just like, it's not working. And
exactly.
You know.
Yeah, it does remove all of those issues, which is nice. If it really looked like it should work, but it didn't, that's just not going to happen anymore. Rolling stock can now be manually fast replaced. That's mostly for the quality wagon. They had to make a lot of changes because they were like, we didn't do quality wagons because there wasn't a way for players to easily upgrade their trains. And that's why it wasn't in 2.0 mostly. And now there are ways. So you can manually fast replace rolling stock. You can mark for upgrade with the upgrade planner, and robots will only dispatch to upgrade trains in manual mode. The trains need to be in manual mode, or automatic trains that are waiting at a stop. And then if the bot is coming to upgrade them, they will pause their departure. So basically, you can set an upgrade planner, and then it will pause all those trains until they get upgraded, and then they'll resume, which is exactly how you want it to work. Rolling stock can now be...
in the middle of...
Yeah. Rolling stock can now be overbuilt with Superforce build. Renaming the last train stop does not update train schedules unless it's a rename all. I don't really know what that means, and I don't think it's a big deal. It's probably a good change. Logistics section name can be parameterized. This is a big deal.
Yeah.
So this allows you... It allows you to paste parameterized blueprints in such a way where the name is what you type in, and that will pick which logistics group, whatever entities are using logistics groups, are going to pick. And so that's actually a really big deal, because previously you couldn't do that, and you had to use other workarounds. I don't even know. This allows some behavior that previously was just impossible, I think.
Parameterization remains one of my favorite features of Factorio, even though it's not something that I use on a minute-to-minute basis in the same way that I use
It's
pipes
really
and belts
cool.
and things. But it's just so cool that it's in the game. I don't
It
know.
is. It's
It's
also
rough around the edges, but
yeah. It's
I'll
also
take it.
really handy for stuff that I think people aren't realizing it's handy for. Like I was making a 7-segment display because why not? The
Yeah,
other day in
sure.
Pi for my science, and I had a thing where I had like a bunch of different combinators that had A in a bunch of places, and I was like, I just want to change all those A's to B's. And that
There you go.
previously was really hard. And now you can just you shift copy the blueprint, you hit the parameterize button, you hit the A, select B, hit paste, paste, done. And it's like everything that would have been like 100 clicks before. And
Yeah.
now it's just done. And that alone is worth the price of admission. Even if you couldn't parameterize, even if you could only change all instances of A to B, that type of thing, even that alone would be great. And it's so much more than that. Anyway,
The only thing I want is like a list of what I can use all the time that's accurate. I remember that being a thing. I don't know if that's been fixed. I haven't played it. I haven't played Factorio
I hope they
in a while.
fixed the bug in parameterization. I've gotten
Oh,
so many
yeah, that
comments
one.
on my
I know what you're
video
talking
about parameterized requests. I've gotten so many comments saying it doesn't work, blah blah blah. But it's just because people see the red, so they think it's
Right.
wrong because the game
The
is
finished
wrong and it
works.
even has the wrong descriptions. So I hope they fixed that. If they didn't, we got to
They
keep
still haven't
reporting it, I
fixed
guess.
They still haven't fixed the description of, I can't remember if it was everything or anything. There was one of them where the description is correct for decider combinators, but not for arithmetic. Again, I can't remember which way it went. And
Interesting.
they won't fix it. And like, I get laughed at. It's like, okay, well, be wrong, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. There's some
It's like, this is
anyway.
like a text box field.
Okay, so asteroid programmable speaker sounds played in global no longer play for all forces. That's great. Your allies don't have to listen to your alarms. In global or surface. But I guess is there another mode? What's the other mode? Local. Like it just makes the sound in that spot on the map, in which case your allies will hear it. Asteroid collector no longer ignores its own circuit output when updating filters. Assemblers no longer ignore their own circuit output when selecting recipe. This is kind of weird because in a way, this will break some setups because if you wanted to input and output on green and you were relying on the self-ignoring aspect of the circuitry, that now breaks things. So now if you used input and output, you have to use different color wires or you will read your own outputs, which in some cases is what you want, but in a lot of cases it's not. And now you kind of are forced to use two colors of wire. Otherwise, you will read your own output. So it's a little weird here. I'm not sure if I love this change, but I think it also sort of makes sense. It's a little weird. I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I almost wish it wasn't a setting rather than a always on or always off situation.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of those where I need to actually play with it in order to get a feel for the details of it. There is no best of both worlds for this, but since you can split input output colors now, it's less bad. That's fair.
Well, but the thing I'm weirded out about is like it's not consistent now because it's not doing it for inserters, as far as I can tell. It's just assembler types, and so like
inconsistencies like this do tend to drive me kind of crazy.
Well, I guess it's only saying, but see, asteroid collectors are basically inserters. Like, because this is talking about no longer ignores its own circuit output when updating filters, right? And that's exactly what an inserter could or couldn't do as well, but they're not making the same change for inserters. So it's just like, if a player's trying to understand like whether a machine ignores its own output or not, it's way confusing now because some of them do and some of them don't. And only for certain things, because here it says when updating filters. It doesn't say when checking the enable disable condition, right? So like it's only the filters that are ignoring.
Sure, but
not the enable disable condition.
I think that the reason that's happening, and this is my intuition, again, I'm not going to speak for the devs, but the thought that I have is a crafting machine, a collector, etc. These are things that bring resources into existence in a sense, whereas an inserter moves it around. So an inserter can't create like a thing.
That's true.
So
that's
it's
true.
not going to change. Whereas if you have an assembling machine, it can make another iron plate, and maybe you do want that to count against the total for whatever filter is happening so that you don't overproduce or something.
No, but this is for when selecting the recipe to craft. Why would you want, like, when would you want the assembler's output to set its own self's recipe.
If I'm
Like
doing
that's what I'm
nutrients.
trying. I guess it could be the when working. You could want the when working symbol to be the recipe that it set, so it self sustains its own recipe. Maybe that's it, because that you can now do, which is kind of nice. Like you can say the when working, and I could set it to iron plate, and now it would keep crafting iron plates or iron gears or whatever forever until it stops, and then it stops giving itself the iron plate. That is kind of cool. So that is now possible without adding extra wiring.
Yeah.
Which previously was impossible. So there's reasons. Anyway, we got to move on. There's a lot of implications to that.
Yeah.
Some are good, some are bad. There's no great solution, as Code Green said in the chat. Okay, I'm gonna speed run a lot of these because a lot of them don't have a ton.
All right,
of
auction your voice, go.
implication, and then you can speed run the GUI section. Okay, assemblers no longer ignore their own. Asteroid collectors can use logistics connection. Logistic, not circuit. They already had circuit. Changed cargo landing pad circuit connection read and set requests to no longer be exclusive. This is kind of just all in line with the changes we've already talked about.
Right.
Replaced include fuel with read fuel for the assembler / biochamber and furnace. That's great. Reworked asteroid damage. They do take damage when they collide with entities and tiles. And they no longer slow down. So now they will get destroyed as they destroy your stuff, which is a good change. It makes that's how it would work in real life. Everything's kind of just falling apart together there.
Yep.
Biter spitter spawners will emit a cloud of damaging acid if they're blocked from spawning units. So now you can't just like encase a spawner with walls, because now they'll acid, which is kind of cool. I like that change. You can still put turrets around it if you really want to. So it's not like you can't do that anymore. Locked the ability for characters to travel to space platforms until the first planet's researched. Pistols now recycle back into themselves instead of ingredients. Wow. Added a separate recycler mod. So now you can turn off recyclers on and off individually.
That's fair.
It's, converted Space Age's mod dependency on the quality mod to a recommendation. This means the quality mod can be disabled while keeping Space Age enabled. So people who want to play without quality can just turn it off. This was big time requested by a lot of people.
Side note, you can now make mods recommended rather than simply strictly compatible, incompatible, or required, whatever. But now you can like recommend them, which is kind of nice.
Yeah. Made the rocket silos inventory size dynamic, so it's only about the weight that's in there. Changed the space platforms to wait in orbit until all drop slots are empty. Changed the construction request to include unbuildable ghost again, but added a bit of a priority system for foundation tiles and cargo bays. Changed the platform's missing construction items to remove completed entries when the platform arrives to planet orbit.
Not sure I get that one.
Yeah, I'm not going to worry about it. Disallowed scheduling new deliveries to a platform with all weight conditions fulfilled so that it can actually leave. Changed space platform inactivity weight condition to stay at 0 when items are on the way. So if it's waiting, but stuff is on the way, it'll just stay at 0 until the stuff gets there, then it leaves. Allowed planting trees on Nauvis sand tiles. Cool. Biter, egg, and nutrients from biter eggs are unlocked by biter egg handling technology. Moved coal synthesis from rocket turret to bioflux. Moved solar system space edge to a separate technology. Fluid pipeline visualization. When holding a fluid entity will only show in alt mode, and it will only show if that setting is on that we previously talked about. Removed automatic fluid visualization on entity hover. Use a pipe GUI or the hotkey. Remove drawing of edge arrows related to fluid extents. When a beacon is selected in alt mode, module icons for that beacon are rendered. Changed equipment ghosts to render the same as entity / tile ghosts. Changed tooltips to take ghosts into account when calculating potential craft speed. This is a big one. So if you've like got a module on the way to an assembler, the assembler is now going to output its speed once that's there, rather than, and I assume that's also taking into account beacon ghosts as well. So like you can paste down a blueprint, highlight the building, and it's going to give you the actual number it's going to spit out, assuming it has all the inputs and power. But yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah,
I use that feature a lot in a mod that I have, Production Rates Calculator Extreme, made by Simon, the Pi speedrunner. That also has that feature where it's looking at ghosts, which is nice.
Cool.
All right. Do you want to speed run the GUI thing?
I can try. Improved the pipe and storage tank GUIs to show real-time fluid statistics and pipeline information.
Great.
Okay. Added horizontal scrolling in scroll panes using shift mouse wheel up and down. I love that.
Great.
That's at least Windows standard. If you have to like go back and forth, you can hold shift and mouse roll. That's fabulous. Same thing for the side menu, but that's zooming, I suppose. Yeah, I guess that actually makes sense because it's a side menu mini-map thing.
Yeah, it's really nice.
But you can now zoom your mini-map.
This one's actually huge. I don't know what the limits are, but not being able to zoom out the mini-map on the top right was really annoying when building radars.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
seeing how far your radar goes is only possible in the mini-map, which is the craziest thing. Why can you not see when you're pasting a radar blueprint on the map view, you cannot see how far the radar goes? Only on the mini-map. And with modded radars, they're bigger than the mini-map. So now you can zoom out the mini-map to see how far your modded radar goes. Anyway, I'm done. Carry on.
It can now be a mega map. Anyways, pressing return in a search text field will unfocus the text field. Okay. I suppose that does save me a click. Several, which is always good, by the way. Several number inputs now clamp their values properly instead of wrapping around or ignoring numbers past their limits. Oh, okay.
Great.
When using a controller, like clamping is the behavior it should always have been.
Yes.
When using a controller, don't activate a quick panel slot when hiding the quick panel if the slot was already previously used manually, either using A or using a mouse. Cool. I don't use controllers enough to have an opinion.
Steam Deck people probably.
Yay. Added recipe info widget to Furnace GUI. Okay, that's good. Removed the invalid mod configuration dialog. Added a GUI to the alerts command. That's actually cool. I've never used the alerts command, so
I didn't even know that was a command. I'm curious what that does now.
Yeah, I think it alerts things. So I'm gonna guess.
And we can skip. There's a lot of new graphics. There's a whole section here on graphics.
It's assembling machines, refineries.
Yeah, just go through the nouns.
Robot doors. Yeah, we get the assembling machine and oil refineries look fabulous. If you like,
the new ones are really cool.
Them even better now. They're just the thing they were and then better. There's a robot door on some things. There's pump wagon connector graphics, which is part of what we did earlier. Working visualizations for the heat exchanger. Oh, by the way, the boiler looks phenomenal. It's great. Planets in the background of space platforms.
That's a mod. Another mod has ascended.
This is no. Well, sort of, yes, but we have it's not a 3D model perfectly. It is basically shader trickery, but there is an actual, like, essentially you give it an HDRI map. I say HDRI, it's not literally the HDRI, but it's the same sort of equiangular flattening of a sphere onto a rectangle. And what it does is it actually projects that. There's a couple of layers and animates those things as planets live. So they'll move and they have like, normal maps and things like that. It's
really cool.
It's like actual regular 3D graphics, something I've wanted for so long. And I immediately went off the deep end asking for features on it. And I'm very sorry, but I am not really that sorry. And it looks so good.
Very cool.
I will say that Feargal, I'm probably saying that wrong. I asked for a spherical cow and I got a spherical cow. That's all I'll say.
Yay. Physics. All right, carry on.
And improved demolisher graphics, fine. Stromlight, a lot of the like environmentals on Vulcanus that had been like recolors of novice rocks, they're fixed.
Yep. Same on Gleba.
Foundation tiles and transitions are reworked. There's just basically a bunch of little tiny changes that follow. Icons for rail items, distinct water and out of map transitions for stone path, concrete and refined concrete. Okay. Wire shadows, actual shadows instead of transparent sprites. Okay. Outlines to visual signals for better visibility on bright backgrounds. I'm actually curious.
Virtual signals.
I said that. Sorry, wrong. Reworked some of the older achievement icons. Sure. Made all reasonable transitions to lava work in a proper way. A lot of Vulcanus stuff. Tesla rocket and railgun turrets now have correctly defined explosions. Okay. I've never blown them up, so. Added fluid glow in pipe windows for lava and molten metals. Molten iron flowing through iron pipes. Makes so much sense. Halved fog and space dust shader resolution to improve performance. Okay, sure.
All right. So a bunch of nice little graphics changes. The big ones are the oil and assembling machine refineries.
And the boiler. The boiler
and
or
the boilers,
heat exchanger. Sorry, I meant heat exchanger, but yeah.
So those are cool. New sounds for crude oil, lithium brine, and fluoride vents. New sounds of refinery and rocket silo. New sound of building and deconstructing huge entities like the rocket silo and landing pad. New sound specific to manual stone mining. So stone has a different sound than like coal and iron and copper.
Okay. That's
specific type. Specific types of console messages play their own sound. That one's kind of cool too. So it's not like the same sound for every single console message. I assume modding can hook into that and also pick their own sounds, which could be really handy.
Which one, as long as it's not like the beacon selection sound that was just like shockingly loud.
Oh, I remember that old one being awful. I don't remember what it was, but you saying that like unlocked something in me. Yes. Like yes, the loud beeping. It was like a radar ping, like a sonar radar situation. Yeah. It was rough. Okay, 4 optimizations here. Improved asteroid rendering performance in CPU-bound scenarios should help with like people going to the edge of the universe, like lag. Improved mini-map rendering performance, which they probably had to because you can zoom it out now. Improved performance of robots and crafting machine recipe overlays. Is that... I can't tell with that sentence. Is it improved performance of the robots and the crafting machine recipe overlays, or the robots and crafting machine recipe overlays?
This one needed a comma, not just an Oxford comma.
I'm unclear what exactly that means, but performance is great.
I think
improved ghost shader rendering performance with many ghosts on screen. So when you paste a Gigantor blueprint, then it's a little better. And that's it for the non-modding.
Yeah.
All in all, awesome changes. I am a huge fan, especially of the circuitry stuff. The balance change of the asteroid quality is probably the biggest one for like, I'll use the word standard. I don't really know what that means, but standard players of Factorio, you know, people that aren't really into a lot of big gameplay mods or anything. It's going to, those players are mostly affected by that one change. There's a few other changes that will affect them slightly, but that one is the really like, if you had to boil down all of 2.1 for like the average player, it's like you can't do asteroid quality crushing anymore. Other than that, it's mostly the same game with like a million smaller improvements. But those are only going to be noticeable.
Some of these circuit network ones are going to be, they're going to impact my play style a bit because I can now do certain things. So, but those
and most of them are changes though that like the average player will just be like, oh yeah, that's how I kind of thought it was going to work anyway. You know, it's like like everything's better here. Just like in classic Factorio style, pretty much all of these changes, aside from that giant big balance one, is like a yes, it always should have been that way. This is how 2.0 should have been, but they just didn't have time for it, you know, kind of thing. Or a couple of them might have been like we learned a lesson after we released 2.0, but I think a lot of these were just like that's what they actually wanted for 2.0 in the first place.
For sure.
So I'm going to pause the recording real quick because I got to hit the restroom, and then you're going to talk about some modding stuff next.
Sure. All right. I got it pulled up right here.
Perfect.
But and
okay, I've paused the recording. We're still live on Twitch.
Yeah, I'll just talk to the Twitch folks while you're doing the thing. A lot of the changes that I'll talk about in a minute here are ones that are sort of in the context of what I would have hoped to do when I was doing more modding. Right now, I'm sort of on a modding hiatus because I am working on my own IP. Someday I may come back, and certainly we have a team that are doing certain things, but I don't want to overpromise anything right now. So effectively, things are either happening behind the scenes or just not, however you prefer to style that. But nonetheless, now Galdoc must entertain us. Oh no, I've never done this before. No. But the idea is that there are a lot of modding changes in here, some of which that I was super excited for. Because these were things that I felt like they should be in the game, and I have been absolutely, hey, you had this really cool feature you've added. I have an idea. And then they would be like, oh God, Galdoc's talking, and then all of a sudden everyone would scatter for the hills. But no, a lot of these are great. Go wishlist. Oh yeah, Desktop Factory. That's the name of the game. It is on Steam, so if you want to see that, then by all means, go take a look. My dream is that I show up to a Galdoc stream right as he is like, so who wants to test my Desktop Factory game? Oh, don't worry. Testing will come. I'm not quite sure when, but that will be a thing. And if you want to be kept abreast of when that will happen, then by all means, join my Discord. I think there's a link somewhere, but if not, then if someone could post the invite link, that would be great. But basically, as soon as I know, I will absolutely share it with as many people as would like to play. Yeah, Galdoc has abandoned his first own game. But yeah, I mean, I've gotten a lot better at graphics. Being the primary artist for this game has been actually really instructive for me, and not just there's a lot of lessons that you only learn when you try to do a larger project like this. So, anyways, welcome back. You are here. Oh, thank you so much for the wish list. Yay.
Okay, I'm back.
Yay, indeed.
So
we have a bunch of
here.
We have a bunch of these things, and do feel free again to just chime in whenever any of these things occur to you. But like, some of these I don't fully understand the implications of, because they're like, I look at this and I'm like, I'm not quite sure how I could use this particular feature, but
There's a lot. Yeah, why don't you pick some of your favorites that you feel like have the most kind of interesting to you, but also interesting to like what is possible with such things.
So I will say they are out of order. So I can see you're trying to keep track of it on the list there. If you go to, I don't know if you want to share the show notes that we wrote up, but I put them in order on the show notes for whatever that's worth. But honestly, they're like, I'll read them aloud, so it's not like such a big deal. The first one is that we have a mod dependency modifier plus. It used to be exclamation point, I think, was not compatible. There was something else. If you just listed it, it was compatible. If you had a question mark, it was an optional thing that could work with it. And if it was parentheses around the question mark, then it would be, this is hidden optional dependency, which always just did my head in. Like, I understand why we need that, but it's like, okay. But then there's plus now, which is recommended. So none of the characters that I just mentioned, if you're not a modder, really matter much. Just understand that now we can, as mod authors, say, hey, look, here is a complete packaged experience. We recommend you have these things, but you do not necessarily need to have them. Recommended mods are optional and enabled by default. Previously, we only had optional, but disabled. I see.
Yeah, that's super nice, because previously, like, you know, I even think about Arendelle and the classic, like, people hated robot attrition, but it was part of the mod pack. And it's like, now you could have that as recommended. And like, when players install space exploration, robot attrition will be on. But a player could manually go in and turn it off, you know, now. And that sort of optionality is really great. Yeah.
Yeah. And I will always hold to, in the modding scene, as the actual player of the game, I get to make final decisions about what experiences I want to have. So being able to do that is always very good. But as the developer of an experience, I think it's also very valid to be able to now more strongly say, hey, this is a good idea. So, yeah. Let's see. So general, added electric energy interface equipment prototype. Cool. I think that'll be useful. I'm not quite sure for what, but I know there are some things that were being hacked into the game that maybe that will sort of help. Added plant prototype, growth variations, and growth mounds. The thing that immediately occurs to me for this sort of thing is that, like, okay, sure, I like the idea of having plants grow, or anything else that might be able to grow that could be interesting. And with more variations and more options for having things show up, this gives me flexibility to recontextualize whatever's happening with these particular things. Maybe they are, you know, there could be like crystals, or there could be like minerals growing, or it could be something accumulating that's ethereal in nature, and I have no idea. The point is that there are a whole lot of things that you can now sort of capture with these sort of elements here, and I always love that. Added excluded from character lift weight. Hide health bar in world, hide spoilage bar in world, item prototype flags. This is good if you're trying to do something that involves maybe spoilage, where you're like, maybe I shouldn't just have that little tiny white ugly bar on the bottom of the thing on all of the belts and such. I think this is one of those delicate things, but frankly, for some of the ideas that I had for modding, this would be a very welcome change. Not just to increase the graphical fidelity, but the at a glance readability, or at a distance readability.
I think it's really nice for, like, for example, health bars on like walls. Like, as a player, I'd like to turn those off. Like, sure, if all my walls are just about to die, that's a little annoying, but like, I'm either going to automated repair all of that. Like, once you're past the manual repairing phase, you don't need to see health bars on your walls. You just, they're going to automatically be repaired, or they're going to die. It's one of the two. So who cares? Spoilage bar in world is also great to hide for either really fast spoiling stuff, so you don't really, the bar isn't doing much for you, or really slow, like the nuclear stuff in Pyanodons is like 100 hours. And it's like, yeah, just hide the bar. Like you don't,
Yeah, I don't
whatever,
need
who
it.
cares? You don't need that.
Yeah,
So
totally. On the back end, so reworked recipe categories. This isn't going to be a huge thing for everybody playing because this is sort of transparent to them. But as a mod developer, essentially what this has done is it, instead of us having to say like there are separate categories that are combinations of things, so it's like handcrafting and assembling machine. Instead of having to make a category for that, two things in one, we can now just have them be separate, and then we can glom them together later on in code. It just makes things a lot easier. It takes out a lot of duplicate stuff, and it just reduces the amount of cumbersomeness, the amount of whatever that goes along with making
cumbersomosity.
cumbersome flagellants. I don't know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
Removed prototype category, additional categories, and so on and so forth. Now you have categories, and that sort of captures what we were talking about a second ago. Flying robot energy usage modifier is no longer based on gravity to pressure ratio. Instead, it's just its own thing, robot energy usage, and that's a surface property. This is, I think, nice because you might not want gravity and pressure to couple together into robot energy usage. You still have
Right.
gravity, you still have pressure. Now it's decoupled, which I think is great.
Yeah, it allows
you
you
can still, like,
to
do stuff.
emulate the idea of like, oh, there's an EM field in robots. You have to build shielded robots on this planet that spend a lot more energy. And like that has nothing to do with gravity and pressure. And now you can just increase robot energy on that planet. That's great.
Yeah. For the ones I put under crafting, added fluid prototypes, spent fluid, as-if. Why did I say as-if twice? I don't know why I did that.
I had said that.
Okay.
I don't know. That was, I think you pasted it, and I think that was like something I had already typed. Anyway, carry on.
Because it was here. I was like, wait. So you now have spent fluid. So like you could have coolant or whatever, right? So that's pretty cool. There is a fluid energy source prototype, output fluid box. This separates that out a bit. I don't remember the exact implications of this, but I think in one of the most recent Factorio Friday Facts, Rygard had built a diagram showing how some of the internal fluid boxes of these things were connected. So that's always good. And then generator prototype, output fluid box, same thing. So basically, a lot of these like fluid manipulators can have spent fluids, and they have separate boxes.
So spent fluids, we're thinking like when you like in pie, when you burn a coal, you get an ash out as an item.
That's exactly it.
Now
That's right.
now if you have is that only for fluid fuel, or can that be for recipes as well?
I honestly don't know. I
So
think
like
so.
like
but
you could
I am not
have
sure.
like essentially you could have steam be a power source, but the spent fluid could be water. Is that an option now?
I think this is
Because
where
if
I
so,
said that.
mods are gonna have a heyday with this. Because that a lot of mods are have done that through the
Yes.
use of recipes, which is
But
way
it's the
more
output, right?
cumbersome.
Yes, because it's an output of the recipe, and now all of a sudden you have to keep track of that, as opposed to it being
Exactly.
spent thing
As a
that is
spent
now channeled off
fluid, now
somewhere
it's just like, oh yeah, steam goes in and I get power and water out. It's like the most logical thing you could think of. And
Yeah.
now it's like maybe real, and maybe you don't get quite as much water. That's the thing though, is if spent fluid is locked in by default, you would get the same amount, but you could anyway. It's a cool system, and I assume you can set the temperature of spent fluid too, because that'll be a pretty big deal in stuff like pie, where you're dealing with like temperatures of steam and water, or even like you use a one temperature of steam to get power, and then a colder temperature but still steam. I wonder if that's an option. Anyway,
Yeah, I don't know.
lots of potential there with spent fluids. That's like a whole new mechanic.
Yeah. And well, I
Interesting.
think there's something I don't remember, but yeah, it's something that I wanted to. What I wanted to do is I wanted to have something where, like, if you had lubricant, you'd have like burnt lubricant or something
Yeah,
like this.
exactly.
No,
But then you can like regenerate that with some recipe. And
Exactly.
again, a lot of mods have already been doing this, but they've just been doing it with recipes the
It's
whole
been part
time.
of the-
Never with
that's right.
like fluid burning being a
Yeah.
spent fluid. They've
It's
just
been-
made
it's
a
been the
recipe.
input-output channel, not the fuel input-output channel. The
Exactly.
product input-output channel.
Yeah, so that's really cool.
Requires ingredients to unlock results, is a recipe prototype thing. Also, sort item ingredients and can set quality. These are all things that can now happen on the recipe prototype. Being able to set quality is kind of huge. I am curious as to what it is going to look like, because being able to do that was something that I've wanted for a long time, since it was mentioned years ago, before 2.0 even came out. So that's cool. You can
Well,
also say result is always fresh to item product prototype. Sorry, moved result is always fresh from the recipe to the item. So now you don't have to set them on every single stinking recipe. So that's cool. That's kind of
that's
cool.
actually annoying though. What if you wanted it to be some recipes don't always fresh the item and some do? That feels like they've removed a capability there.
I honestly don't know. You bring up a good point. I guess I'm not entirely sure, but I think there's usually something that can be done here. I just don't know what it would be in this case. But I know what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Because there
It
are
feels like it's
times
not
where
become
you want it
homogenized.
to be always fresh from some recipes, but not others. In
Sure.
fact, I know of some examples of that in Pyanodons, where some of them reset to make an always fresh item, and some of them adopt the spoilage of the parent ingredients. So
That's an interesting
that's
point.
weird.
Okay.
Anyway, back
Um,
to I'm a little confused on what is the requires ingredients to unlock results. Expand on that. What would that do?
So I am not entirely clear on that particular item. That one, again, this is something I wanted to play with. I just gonna own I don't understand it.
Maybe Code Green knows.
Yeah. The sort item ingredients made sense. The can set quality made sense. That require ingredients to unlock results. No, I got no idea.
All right.
There's the let's see. I missed something. Yes. So I was asking on the recipe prototype, they've added a parameter requires ingredients to unlock results. WTH. Anyways,
Yeah. You carry on for
so
now, Galdoc. I'm sure Code Green
I
will
shall.
explain it in the comments here. Twitch
Item
chat.
ingredient prototype quality min, max, and change. That one sounds cool. I want to experiment with that to sort of see what it's going to look like. But having on the item ingredient prototype, so it's not the actual item itself, it is the item ingredient. And by the way, the earlier thing I mentioned, the item product prototype. So when it said that the recipe prototype was that reset freshness, it wasn't the item prototype. It was the item product prototype. An item product prototype specifically references an item, but no, you can still get your granularity because it references the item and it's saying that here's this other information associated with that item. So you would still be able to do it. It would just be on an item product level. So basically, if you had a recipe that had 4 different products, instead of them all being reset freshness
Oh,
or
you
all
could
not being
reset 2 of them,
freshness,
but not all of them.
exactly. And it's
Oh,
not
that's super cool.
It's not on a universal item basis.
Got it. Yeah, that's
missed the word
great.
product. Sorry, I said that wrong.
That's
my
actually a
bad.
great change. And again, that allows modders to do a lot more with spoilage
Yes.
there. So that's really cool.
The anything dealing with like manipulating the characteristics of spoilage and quality were things that went into here. I have a few specific ones down here that aren't related to the crafting part of that, but those sorts of levers are the kinds of things that, as a modder, I want to be able to tinker with to capture some.
Yeah, I'm confused what quality min, max, and quality change would be for an item ingredient. Is it saying like you couldn't put legendary ingredients of that type in? Is that what that would be saying?
I'd have to take
like
a look.
If max was epic.
I know what I'm hoping these things mean. I'm not sure what they actually mean. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping
we had a big list, before Space Age came out of everything we wish quality could do, and we got like 1 out of the 7 of those things or something.
I don't think it's mixed quality ingredients. Dang it. Okay.
Yeah,
that
one makes sense, but it would.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what it does. Let's see.
Simon says each machine has a selected quality, right? Like when you select a crafting recipe, you're selecting which quality it is. But quality change would be how much the output quality is different than the inputs were. So you could have 5 common items making 1 legendary item. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so that allows modders to do a lot then. Because you could have certain recipes that cost 20 times more, but increase the quality by an extra step. That's really cool. That's a huge change.
I specifically pointed out that I would want. I'm hoping that is.
If what Simon says is correct, which I assume it is, Simon knows a lot about modding, then that's a big deal for modders to be able to skip quality tiers like that.
Benny Baiter.
It's said that forever. I don't know. It's just Twitch being weird. Twitch.
Twitch being Twitch? What are you talking about? It's crazy.
Twitch doesn't know anything.
Item product prototype. Always fresh or reset freshness on craft. Fine, sure. We just talked about that. Fluid ingredient, optional fluid box indexes. It should be indices. Why is it indexes? That's not the plural of indices. Anyways, Okay, cool, fine. Fluid box multiplier defaults to 3. Okay. These are all fluid box things that I would want to play with. Essentially, these are
Yeah.
some of these I
Just more
copied and pasted.
options, it sounds like.
That was one thing I wanted to point out. Like a lot of these I copied and pasted because they're things I want to play with, but I need to actually experiment with them in order to really understand them. And I just
So if
haven't had
I'm
the time to do it.
understanding these fluid box indexes option, it's for things like the destructive distillation column and pi, which have 8 fluid boxes.
Yeah.
You're allowing which ones go to which spots rather than I think the game was pre-assigning them. And now you could manually
Okay.
set it up to be a better, like, especially for some things in the destructive distillation column, there's only 4 fluids, which could fit on just 2 sides of the building. So you could tile the building vertically and not have to worry about the top and bottom spots. But the way the game defaults it made it like there's some things on the top, bottom, left, and right. So you couldn't just smush them all together. So I think it's related to that if I'm guessing.
Okay.
Which is
Fair
nice. Just more stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. There's product prototype into product prototype base, but then most importantly, independent probability. Thank you. I just want to say I've been banging on this
That's
drum
huge.
for so long,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been told so many times, Galdoc, this can't happen. Here's my dissertation as to why it can't happen. Galdoc, you're so wrong. The amount of wrongness is lots. Anyways, this is where I said I was going to freak out. This is my freak out. Shared probability, yes. I don't want to, right here, boom, shared probability. There are all sorts of things that are now available to us as modders with probability. I don't want to go into all of them right now. We're running a little low on time. But all I can say is thank you for putting this in the game.
Yeah,
I
it's really
appreciate it.
nice for especially I would say non-traditional Factorio mods that are like more like Ultra Cube type stuff where there's a really, really important thing that you only have one of. Situations like that require this shared probability far more, where it's like, oh, what if you want a chance to upgrade your cube? If you had gotten 2 cubes out of that, that would be terrible. You're only supposed to have, and I know you can get more cubes in Ultra Cube later, but just imagine some form of mod where there's only ever one, and like, then you need to say, hey, it's a 95% chance to get your regular cube back, but it's uncharged and you have to recharge it. And then there's a 5% chance to get the upgraded cube. And like, you just couldn't do that before because it would break the game. And now it is possible to do that. And it fixes some basic stuff. Like if you had a count perfect system where like, I've got 40 of these items in a loop, and previously, like, technically it wouldn't break over the course of infinity, but like, what if you got an extra 10 items? Would that break it? Because that could happen after 100 hours of gameplay. And so like, it's nice to know that modders can set these shared probabilities and the counts will stay perfect in these closed loop systems that have percentages to get one item versus the other, which is cool. In most cases, for most mods, the end result is nothing different in your factory, but it allows for some new cool options and it fixes a few small annoyances.
Yeah, that's what I was going to point out. It's like nothing else is broken. The people who need it can use it. That's more or less where I'm at.
And back to the quality thing, I wanted to hit on that. Code Green talked a little more about that. So with the item ingredient quality min, max, and change, and the item product quality min, max, and change, and affected by quality, essentially you could have a recipe that requires a bunch of rare items, and it produces an uncommon iron plate and a legendary, module. Like, I believe that's all possible now. And you can even have one that's not affected by quality. So it would get an uncommon iron plate in all versions of this recipe. Like, so it's really, there's a lot of options now with that. Oh, not affected by quality modules. Sorry. Okay, sorry. So it would still be affected by the quality of recipe you're selecting, but it wouldn't be upgraded. You could have outputs that are not upgraded by quality in the first place if quality modules are in the assembler. That's still really cool.
I need to look at the actual manifestations of some of these, but that is just so much power. I'm gonna have to go rewatch my
feels like
video.
There's a lot of options now with quality, and it's just way better. I'm gonna be honest.
Quality and spoilage were the 2 things that I want to be able to do stuff with.
Because now you can turn off affected by quality on all your outputs, which essentially makes quality modules not play the Wooba way anymore. And now you can make
Wooba
recipes
insane way.
to do
Sorry,
what you
I'm
want with quality, rather than
Yeah.
the like we gamble in this
That's what
fixed
the World
way.
of Warcraft way is what I was trying. It's
Yeah.
I don't want to play World of Warcraft in my Factorio game. I want to play Factorio in my Factorio
Well,
game.
and
look,
I'm more getting
not
at
trying to tell other people they can't have fun at all.
Sure.
You want to do that way, and that's fun, and it makes sense. 100 billion% do the thing, right? It doesn't work for me. It's okay.
more what I'm saying, Galdoc, is now we can set it up so that you could, like the Pyanodon's way, where the only way to get rare is a separate recipe.
Yes.
Because if everything's unaffected by quality modules, you can say, hey, to make the uncommon version of this, you use this recipe, which upgrades, it has quality change 1 on it. But then to make the rare version, you would have to do a quality change 2 from the baseline items, because maybe there's no way to make the rare version of those baseline items in the first place, right? And so like there's a way that you can kind of get to essentially every rarity is a different recipe now, which was on my big request list before quality and was not possible until now. And now it is, as far as I can tell.
Sure. The challenge that I normally have with this is that and this is the way I'm trying to think about this, is on the one hand, when you have quality behave the way you just described, this feels like just making independent items. And that's true until you get to a product. When you get to a product, then you want to be able to say, all right, well, this quality power pole gives me whatever, right? Because now you're no longer just talking about the quality of the regions that are going in and out of this. So for me, this is just my personal ethos. The way I would like to use it is I would like to build this sort of system as described here that feels kind of like different items, even though it's still wearing the mask of quality, sort of this system here. But then when you get to a product that you can put in the world and use it, that's when it jumps off and returns back to their quality system with the bonuses and all of that stuff.
And that's why it's useful, is it's like, we can have, like different recipes for all this stuff, which essentially is the same as what Pyanodons is already doing with separate items. But then once you get to the product, instead of being 5 different products, which are 5 different entities, they are instead just different qualities of the same entity, which allows you to use those new prototypes, which they've added quite a few even since 2.0, between 2.0 and 2.1, to allow for quality to change more things and affect more things. So there's a lot of like exploration room here now with what mods can do.
Indeed.
Really cool.
All right. Just want to let you know what the time is, if you're okay.
We got like 5 minutes, so pick your favorites.
Okay. All right. So for the circuits, we already talked a little bit about this. It's the heat pipe, the pipe to ground, and the pipe prototype. Those all get circuits. Don't need to talk much more about that. There's an entity prototype tall, which is kind of cool. I guess that's a good property to have. You can like flag it as tall, which means it will now obey the like make it transparent during this whatever system. I love that. So
Pyanodons can take all their giant ass sprites that so many people complain about, put the tall tag on them, and now people can hide them.
That's exactly right.
Mic drop.
Like the stupid looking laboratory. It looks so dumb. It is the dumbest thing I've.
Okay.
If you like it, you're objectively wrong.
Hey, now they can hide it.
That's true. Hide your shame. I'm literally kidding. Please, if you like this thing, please don't actually feel like I've just like come after you.
If the Pi devs are listening, the only way to get Galdoc to ever play Pi is to change the lab sprite. You heard it here first.
You don't understand that is one of the things that I don't want to play Pyanodons for. That's how much I hate it.
Honestly, though, you're not the only one. There's a lot of great sprites in that game. I don't think the lab is one of them. I think it bothers a lot of people. Yeah.
There's an entire mod that just did nothing but cut off the tops of all the those images.
Yes.
I forgot what it is.
No, I'm with you. I mean, I'm not with you in your level of hate, but I am with you in that I understand. You're allowed to have that opinion, and I understand it.
And I heart anyone who
I don't hate the lab graphics by itself. I do hate how big the overhang is compared to the footprint of the building. I think a big overhang is okay with a giant footprint. Like the oil refinery is like 16 by 16 or something, so it's okay that it has a few tiles of overhang. But when a 5 by 5 building has like 8 tiles of overhang, that is a bit absurd.
And it's well, any overhang means I can't see the belts behind it. So
Well, that's
yeah.
why you just learn to build vertically with your pie building, so then you don't have to worry about it. You tile vertically.
I just realized it was impossible, so I just stopped doing it.
Yeah.
I love
Anyway,
it.
okay, carry on. What else is there here?
I'm not gonna be able to distill this down. There's a bunch of quality stuff, quality prototypes. There's like chain probability, next probability. Not quite sure all the details there. Previous chain probability. I need to go over these. Code Green. I'm gonna when I get back into mod and pill for you and have you explain these things to my skull.
Module support to agriculture towers. That seems like a decently big one.
Yes. I didn't. I thought. Wait, really? Where is that? I didn't think they.
Did I skip over a
Modules.
section? Crafting,
I skipped over a
circuits.
section because I was trying to find. Yeah, I was trying to find
design.
something to do because we're all like we were basically out of time. We got like 2 minutes.
I just wanted to mention that agriculture towers having modules means that Pyanodon's alien life can now utilize the agriculture system like heavily for the flora, and I'm guessing in some crazy future version they will, because that's really cool.
Sweet.
Graphics.
Man, I really did pick a terrible time to start making my NIP with the group, but man, there's a whole lot of great stuff here. I'm kidding. I love that I'm doing, but like this makes me feel so excited to go back into modding, and I can't. I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
But there is so many of the things that I've wanted since the announcement of some of these features are now in the game. At
Yeah,
least
I wanted
in
to
such
go
a
back.
workable state.
I wanted to
that I
go
can
back to the
make what I
research one you mentioned. Technology prototype and lab prototype now accept any item type as research ingredients. So changed all science packs to be plain items. What this means, if I'm understanding correctly, is that you can just have a combat shotgun as the research pack for some random tech in science, right?
Yeah.
And now you have to throw a combat shotgun into your lab, but just for that one tech?
I think so.
That's crazy. Yeah,
like I said, anything can be a tech ingredient now. Like I was doing, I can't remember the way it went, but there was something with so for whatever reason, I think it's because of the fact that they were going to try to have tools have durability or something. But science packs were categorized as tools in the
yes, I remember
inheritance
that.
tree.
Yeah.
And so it turns out, but that was like a subset of armor. Or armor was a subset of it or something like that. So basically what I did was I figured out I turned armors like into science packs for a little while. So you would put like a power armor and do research on it. And yeah, that was
yeah, I mean, this one's a big deal. Again, I'm just thinking,
and that's what I chose to do.
Yeah. I'm thinking mostly in context of pi here, just in the sense that like for the up marking on modules when you're going from like Mark II AUGs to Mark III AUGs or whatever. Yep. Right now it's using the Gamba system, which a lot of people are pretty not huge fans of, but we could now have technologies that require you to input roughly the same expected value, and you research the tech in special labs that like allow you to put animals and like great alien samples and whatever else, seaweed and whatever else went into these recipes into the labs, and now you research Mark III AUGs, and then you're allowed to do the Mark III AUG reproductive loop. Like, that could be really cool too. I don't know if they'll go that direction because it is a little bit of a divergence from the system they have. I think the system they have is kind of cool in some ways, but it gets repetitive after you do the Mark I, Mark II, Mark III, Mark IV of so many different plants and animals. And having technologies to like upgrade maybe to like 3 and 4 or 2, 3, and 4 instead of more Gamba could be cool. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
That's cool. Well, I mean, I know zero about Pyanodon, so I'm just going to nod. But yep, nope, I got you.
Okay, and now the quality, we're fine.
Spoiled ticks multiplier. That's kind of cool. I kind of like that.
What does that mean?
I assume that means that like essentially I can say this is how many ticks it takes to go up to lose one spoilage thingy. I'm assuming that's what
so
that
like
means.
A higher quality item spoils slower or faster,
something like that. Yeah. So like it,
or both.
Probably slower. I would imagine that something of higher quality would spoil slower. But I suppose it would just be like what's the multiplier? Is it 2 or a half? And then you can make
If the multiplier is only integers,
that would be great if it was like spoiled faster, even though it was higher quality.
But that could be good, right? You might want you might want things to spoil because
Oh,
maybe the
sure,
spoilage
yeah.
is what you're looking for, right? There
maybe
are
you're, like,
things in
processing
Pi
something.
where you actually want the stuff to spoil. So it's like, oh, the legendary version of this spoils 2.5 times
fair enough.
faster.
Fair enough.
You know,
Yeah.
and so like that's just a cool thing for modders to be able to mess with if spoiling is part of the crafting chain.
Yeah.
Now it
Module
also says
consumption.
chain probability, and so you can
Yeah, I need to
have
sit down with that one.
next probability now only affects the first step of quality roll. So I assume that means you could upgrade from, but you could
I think
already
chaining
go from
probabilities if you like. I think it's when you have like you start at one, quality,
normal.
and then you have your roll to get to the next level, and if you succeed, you get another roll. I think that's what they're talking about here, but I would need to sit down with it.
I assume, here's my assumption, is that you can increase the chain probability so that it makes it more or less likely that you skip steps or you go from normal straight to rare kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that it allows you to mess with that more. I'm not entirely understanding exactly how that would work. And then the module consumption, module speed multiplier, module productivity multiplier, module pollution multiplier, module quality multiplier are now all part of the quality prototype. So modules can now be individually scaled on each axis with quality. So like a prod module could scale prod up as quality goes up, but speed goes down. I mean, this is what already happens in the game, right? But speed currently hasn't been going down per quality. It's only been per tier of module. But now you could have all of it go down per tier of quality and only have one prod module in the game.
Okay, that just went to soup in my brain. I think my brain is full.
Yeah, all that to say, yeah, for you listeners, the important part is that modders can do a lot more with quality now. Like,
yes,
seemingly, at least 5 different things we've talked about all individually feel like, wow, you could do a lot with that. And all 5 of them are there. And I'm just saying 5 is a random number. There's probably more than that. But it's like, there's a lot of different things modders can play with that previously were impossible. They weren't just like difficult or had weird workarounds. It's like, we literally couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of new options now, which is cool.
We need to have
I'm
a
excited.
team meeting after this episode. I want to be like, all right, we have toys. Let's play with them. Build
exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm excited. I feel like there's so many directions that this stuff could all go. And I think it'll allow a lot of mods to clean up. This is kind of unrelated to the average Factorio player, but a lot of things that mods were doing already can now be done without a workaround, such as fluid spent results. Like, that's so cool because so many mods were already doing that in a workaround, and now they don't have to do a workaround. And that's true of a lot of these systems. So that's really cool. Yeah. I'm so excited.
There's still one thing that I will someday hope for, and that is the ability for an assembling machine that has a loop to be able to channel from the output into the input, because doing that is kind of a weird sort of hacky thing in the game. But that is one of those, like, I understand that that's probably squarely within the, this is part of the complexity that we want the player to have to do. Okay, fine, sure. But that would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not the craziest thing to just use self-inserting inserter for that, but
well, I had to when I did it, like, I couldn't have an inserter pick up and drop off from the same thing, even with Bob's inserters. I would always have to like pick it up, put it in something or on a belt or something.
Oh, really?
And then have it turned around. Like, maybe there's a better way to do it, and I just couldn't figure it out.
I thought self-inserters did work on loops. I swear I've used that before in a mod, but maybe I'm making that up. Like where a Bob's adjustable was just in and out to the same square. But maybe I'm wrong, and it like blocks. It says like input blocked or output blocked or something. I don't remember. It's been too long.
No, for me, it just wouldn't like it wouldn't register that it was a valid something. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what the problem was. It was a while ago since I tried it, and it could be PEBCAC.
Yeah. Right? Anyway, 2.1, big deal. Experimental's out now. Go try it. I'm a little bit behind because Pyanodons has to update for 2.1, and it might break a couple things in my base even once Pi updates. So I might, depending on how much will break, I may choose to not update for a while. And I mean, at the end of the day, only a couple of these features will impact me on my current Pi run. So there's a world where if it breaks a lot, I might even not update until after my Pi run, but we'll see. We'll see. all
sure.
that to be said, very exciting stuff. I'm really glad they got most of the features I was hoping for. The one big one was being able to read construction requests. Still not a thing. That one's a little bit of a bummer to me. But
Well,
it's okay.
I mean, honestly, they I know they say they're done and they're going to be just moving into like bug fixing mode, but there's some part of me that has a feeling that at least some people at Wooba will still occasionally hear the cries of the fan base. Being
Yeah,
like,
I think there will be some more minor features and
who
changes and
knows?
tweaks and mod support that get added. I don't
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to do any more balance like like game
Just
balancing
reliable.
changes. They might tweak
Yeah.
a number from like 7 to 6 or something, but they're not going to like I think they're done with all that sort of thing. But yeah, they definitely might still add in like, oh, now this thing's possible that wasn't possible
And
before.
there's a part of me that remembered at some point that I think they had mentioned open sourcing the engine. I don't know if that's a thing anymore.
They
or
mentioned
if
that
I'm
a
just
long time ago.
misremembering it.
Yeah, I assume that will happen at some point still.
I would love them to do that. I don't know what I would do with it because I'd probably look at it and be like, wow, that's a lot of stuff that I don't know what to do
Yeah,
with. But,
I assume
still.
it's like there's some sort of this is really me stretching in assumptions, but I imagine it's a business related question where it's like, at what point do we decide to basically give away our product for free?
Yeah.
Because
More or
as soon
less,
as we do this, people can basically just download it and play Factorio for free, and we can't do anything about it.
Right.
Which is like a pretty bad business decision in like a general sense, like if your goal is to make money, right? And so at some point,
Right.
I think they would like to do that. They've said they'd like to do that, but I imagine it will still be a ways down the road for that reason, just if for business purposes alone. But maybe not. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they're just going to be like, hey, we want people to have this, but like if you want to play the game, please buy it, and we'll just go on the honor system. Like I could see them doing that too, because they seem like that kind of company in terms of like how they carry themselves. But at the same time, they deserve to make money off of their product for many
really
years
do.
to come.
Yeah.
And so like in that sense, I almost hope they don't, so that they have more money to do whatever they want to do next, because it's going to be awesome too, whatever that is. So
Yeah.
I wish them all the best with whatever projects they're working on next, because I assume there's going to be I don't know,
I don't even know.
something crazy. Yeah, whatever it is.
I know
it's
that like Krydax had speculated at one point in an interview right after 2.0 launched that he was going to want to go into some kind of RPG something or other. I don't know what's happening with that or what the status of that
that
is
was
anymore.
something not Clonin, Kovarex had mentioned
That's right. Yeah.
in the final note after Space Age released. But that now is a year and a half ago, and it was a very vague comment at that, so who knows?
Yeah.
Or 2 years ago now. Wasn't it like September of 24 or something?
I do know that for a while there was a Factorio Friday Facts where he's like, all right, I'm starting a WoW guild. And I actually joined his Discord for a little while.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like they were playing Alliance, so I didn't get back into the game. If they had done Horde, I probably would have, but maybe not. I just
filthy Horde player.
Well, but the thing
For
was
the
that
Alliance.
I played so much WoW that I just can't.
You
like,
can't swap. Once you're
glad.
locked in, you're
Oh,
locked
no.
in.
No. I mean, I can't like go back to the game. Like,
Oh, that too.
It was
Yeah.
not a healthy time in my life. I was
Also
young and I
understand
could
that.
sort of absorb that, but just man, it was
Yeah.
not. I loathe the sort of mechanics nowadays. Like it's so much so that if I run into a game that has echoes of the sort of grind that's there to make you want to play the game more and buy into their system so that you can funnel more money that way, I feel it, and it's an instinctual gut reaction, like not even at a conscious level.
I get it.
Away from me.
And we have to wrap up here, but I have one thought, which is like leveled loot and leveled areas is the thing that bothers me about game, where I'm like, because then you make everything always just slightly difficult, and players can go to any area to level up in any order they want, and it's like, then what's the point of anything? You've just made everything the same now, because nothing, like I liked in Morrowind how there was the Ghost Gate in the middle of the map, and if you went to the Ghost Gate as a low-level player, you got your butt handed to you by these giant monsters that killed you in half a second. I think that's good for a game. Now, you play games like Skyrim, And you can go anywhere in the world, and there you go in any dungeon, and there's going to be enemies
Yeah.
that are about your level, and the loot they drop is about what you need. And it's like, that's so different than just knowing that this dungeon over here, if you go there as a level 1 player, there's a dragon in there and it will eat you. And it doesn't matter what level you are. That dragon will always be there, and it will always drop this sword. And I liked that about Morrowind and original WoW. You know, all the areas had fixed levels and quests and everything. And now everything is just smoothed
I never
together. And it's
I never
just
loved
like,
once I got to the max level. I like have a couple of ults, but like they weren't. I didn't keep up with the leveling experience. But
Yeah.
no, I know what you're saying. The like level that matches.
it's why
constantly with
Starfield
yours.
sucked, by the way. Is Starfield randomized all that, and all the areas were randomized except for like a few main core areas. Everything was like randomly spawned on planet surfaces. So again, it
see.
felt like I'm not going to a handcrafted location. It's just all
felt
randomized.
It felt like a paste
Yeah.
of content.
Yeah.
A gruel, flavorless gruel.
Yeah,
of
you want to
content.
see a big mountain on the map that you know something dangerous is going to be on the top of from the beginning. Anyway,
You
that's
wanna have
such a
some
digression.
Context of value. So yeah.
Yeah.
I'll-
Well,
I will absolutely go on
Galdoc
for,
and
like,
I
4
clearly
hours.
miss having these long conversations about random things, but I'm
has
sure
been
we'll be
great.
back. Yeah, this has been
This has
great.
been
Thanks for
great.
hanging out.
Of course, no. Thank you so
I'm
much.
sure we'll
for doing
do
this. And
another encore episode. We'd love to get, people like Code Green on to talk more about modding, especially maybe, after another couple months when people have had a little bit of time to settle in to all these new options. Maybe someone can kind of compile a list of some mods for us to talk about. So
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll be back with some more Factory Must Grow. But for now, we will go back to our kind of hiatus timing, which you can keep an eye on Galdoc and I's Discords for any announcements on more episodes. If you have ideas, please feel free to share them with us. It's not like the show's just over forever. Please talk
Indeed.
with us about the Factory Must Grow, share some ideas. Heck, the more fun ideas you hand to us, the more excited we're going to get about doing them, and the more likely we are to do an episode. So, just saying, the more ideas you give us, the more likely we are to do an episode. I think that's a true statement. It's not a
Indeed.
promise
And
about
just
anything, but it's a true
Well, I
statement.
mean, it's all going to be dependent on the status of our lives. And frankly,
Exactly.
like, I'm loving what I'm doing with the group I'm working with. We're Giga Jam. I love the game we're working on, and that's taken up so much of my time that honestly, it would have been difficult to continue doing this like every single week. I would have made the time, but like,
Yeah.
I think it's good to come back when there is something really important to talk about, and I am
Exactly.
absolutely here for that. So
Awesome.
Um,
Well, thanks,
can I plug
Galdoc.
my game real quick? Can I plug
What's
my
that?
game real quick? Can I plug my game real
Oh,
quick?
please do. Yes, I'd like you to.
So it is called the Factory Must Grow is the podcast I'm on. Oh my god. It's called Desktop Factory, and I don't know how to English. No, if you want to, we have a Steam page right now. It is not out in early access, but please go wishlist it if you want to have a sort of idle game that's somewhat Factorio-ish in the sense that there's like products you move around and production chains. But it's meant to scratch the itch in such a way that you can continue working on whatever you're supposed to be doing during the day and not having to pay attention to this thing unless you want to, in which case there will be some fun waiting for you. So that's basically it.
Awesome. I love it. I got pretty excited, to hear because there are a couple desktop games I've enjoyed a lot, and the idea of a factory one is very exciting. So I'm excited to see where that game goes as well. I've gotten to see a little bit behind the scenes myself, and it's cool stuff. So I'm eager to see more. But yeah, for all of you listeners, thank you always for being here. If you'd like to support Galdoc or I, we do still have our Patreons. Obviously, the support looks a little different given our content creation looks a little different these days, but whatever it is that you guys feel you'd like to do is what you should do. If you want to support people, support them, and our Patreons exist for that. And but you shouldn't feel obligated. So all that to say, those are still there. And yeah, that's all I've got. Galdoc, any
Indeed.
last words?
No, this has been wonderful. Honestly, I've missed it, and it felt great to come back to this.
Yeah, me too. Well, thank you all for listening. As always, remember, the factory must grow.
Toodles.
All right.
Whew.
We're still live, but I'm going to have to head out. So goodbye, Twitch. Thank you
Indeed,
all
I'm
for
gonna have to
hanging
go
out. And yeah,
shovel
I
food
mean,
in my face.
there were a couple of changes in that patch notes that I had totally missed. Like the one,
I heard.
which one was it? I already forgot what it was.
The very end. It was the last one on.
It was, yeah, it was. What was that?
Where was it? Hang on.
It was on the first section, right? Or the second? Oh, the
It
time
was add
combinator.
deleted
Yeah.
alerts command. I'm kidding.
The time
touch the timer.
combinator was just blew my mind. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was and that's so handy.
Yeah.
That
that'll
being
be a
said,
good one.
though, I guess it doesn't make a better timer because you can already set up a timer with one combinator. But
honestly,
like,
the amount of just
still
it's a
cool.
quality of life.
Yeah, it's very cool. That one was fun, and all the quality stuff. I hadn't really looked at the modding stuff yet, so I'm excited to hear. I think I actually, I got more than I expected today. Like, there's a lot more being added with quality than I thought they were going to add, and so I'm very excited about the possibilities.
Yeah, and I will say the time one, there is a very specific use case for this that just occurred to me right now, and that is when you're doing some kind of build where you need a calculation to happen, and you know how many steps, how many ticks it's going to take for that calculation to happen. You can now have a timer with that number hand coded in, and then do something every whatever ticks without it having to be coupled to the system. So that's kind of handy.
That's
so if you know it's
true.
going to take 7 ticks for a calculation, you can set this thing to like every 7 ticks do the modular arithmetic.
That's true. Yeah,
So,
that's cool.
yeah.
All right. Well, see you later, Twitch.
Sure.
Thank you all for hanging out.
Indeed.